The first time I met you was actually at Adam Meredith's show. It was maybe, I want to say like a couple months ago. We actually sat next to each other, and that's when I shook your hand.
Yeah.
And I believe that was your wife next to you.
Yes.
Met her as well. And it was really funny for me to see the banter back and forth with like you and Kyle and some of these, Kyle Watson, sorry.
Yes.
And it was very fun to see the black belts with esteem and experience basically be just like any old guy. You know what I mean? Like me and my friends with each other, but you guys are much deadlier.
I don't know about that, but yeah, we're older. I say now, a little more experienced, but that like you said up something, the mysticism of the black belt. Man, we're just normal dudes. Normal dudes, like we started jiu-jitsu and we we're all white belts at one point. And man, when I started jiu-jitsu, it was in Ohio, 2006, and there were like 5 black belts total. And now we're at Revive, we have like 12.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome that, the growth that jiu-jitsu's seen. It's pretty cool.
It's been interesting too. So I've had a slew of black belts on now, from Mike Rogers, you, Kyle Watson, Rodrigo Vaghi, Adam Marburger now is a black belt as well.
Josh McKinney.
Josh McKinney.
Yeah.
I'll have Adam Sella next
great.
week.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see how I saw with Stand Up Fight Series this week, because I come from MMA, right? In Stand Up Fight Series, Muay Thai is just so much about like respect and lineage and honor. And there is no real, yes, there's a winner and a loser in that fight, but like it's not as heavy as it is in MMA. And I see a lot of that similarity in jiu-jitsu as well, where it's like familiar, camaraderie, unity, family, respect, honor, all these other things that are like very emblematic and characteristics of what you would find in just good human beings, right? The thing that I wanted to ask you first, and what I wanted to start this conversation with, is like, for me, martial arts has been a vehicle to better myself as a human being. In business, with my family, as a man. Would you say that jiu-jitsu has also been that vehicle for you?
Oh yeah, 100%. Jiu-jitsu, wrestling, a good quote like from wrestling, for instance, is like, it teaches you to get off your back. Life's going to put you on your back. It's going to knock you down. It's like how you get up and how you persevere through it and persist. And jiu-jitsu is a kind of a microcosm of real life. It's like there's going to be somebody bigger, better, tougher, the world, for instance. They're going to put you on your ass. What are you going to do to get out? Are you going to give up and, just accept your fate and not try to be better? Or are you going to, figure out the problem, work for a solution, don't let it happen again? And, it's all philosophical with jiu-jitsu, but I think that mindset change really helped me out a lot, especially after coming out of the military. And it's given me a drive and determination, and I think it sparked something within me that I always had, but it really just, magnified it, where, I'm a constant goal setter, and you can never, ever learn all of jiu-jitsu. There's always a new goal to achieve, and it really pushed me pretty hard to like magnify that and be better in my life and business and career and everything. So yeah.
You're still competing, but before we talk about the today, I'd like to take a step back. You were talking about how when you first started jiu-jitsu in Ohio, there was like 5 black belts in the area. Can you tell me like how old you were? Like when was it that you walked into your first gym? How did you get to that point?
Yeah, so I started right out of the military. I was 22, and I was, looking for something to do. Got back from an Iraqi deployment and all that stuff. And jiu-jitsu, I think for me, I didn't know what any of that stuff was, but The Ultimate Fighter Season 1 came out, and I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. I want to go fight MMA. And I remember thinking I need to get better at wrestling, because I had wrestled a little bit in high school. I was like, okay, I was watching Matt Hughes just destroy everybody. Yeah, just kill everybody. He was dominating. And I'm like, I got to get better at wrestling. The BJ Penn match, when Matt Hughes got choked out by BJ Penn, rear naked choke. I'm like, I got to learn jiu-jitsu. So when I got out, I found a jiu-jitsu school. Luckily, in the town I was in, I was going to college in Ohio, and Sean Chitwood was my first instructor. At the time, he was a brown belt. Like, we didn't even have black belts. There were 5 in the whole state. There was Salo Ribeiro and Chandra Ribeiro, who were in Toledo, Ohio. Jeff Hudson, Robin Giesler, and there's one other Brazilian in Cincinnati, and that was it. That was the whole state, 5 guys. And I got lucky. Sean was a very technical coach. He taught me a lot of my technique and the building blocks for jiu-jitsu. And so back in the day, it was just grind it out, jiu-jitsu versus the world, jiu-jitsu guys versus wrestlers, jiu-jitsu guys versus MMA guys. And yeah, it was a different time. Nagas were like really popular. Like that was the tournament. And the in the 20 years almost that I've been doing jiu-jitsu, there's been an enormous amount of change that I've seen. But yeah, that's the original building blocks. Was walking in the gym, not knowing what the heck I was doing, was taught a Kimura. I was like, oh wow, this is pretty cool. This is awesome. And then I remember my first sparring session. I went with a guy named Ryan Radio. He was a blue belt. He was maybe 120 pounds, and I was like 220 coming out of the Army. And I was, typical white belt, super spazzy and aggressive. And he slipped in a cross choke. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like, yeah, that's neat. Got lucky. Did it 5 times in a 5-minute round. And
you're like, oh,
yeah,
shit.
I was like, damn it, this guy can't stop it.
It's pretty consistent.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, well, tell me did you do? And he showed it to me. And I thought to myself, man, if this little dude who's 220 pounds or 120 pounds.
I was going to say,
yeah.
How dare you, sir?
Yeah.
This little 220 pounder. I was like,
guy.
I'm a child. Just wanted to take a second to pause the action and just tell you guys, thank you so much for consuming our content. Easy Talk is a passion project. This podcast is just a bunch of like-minded people coming together to produce some cool stuff and talk to some cool people. One of the things I would very much appreciate is if you could possibly like the video or subscribe to the channel, just because it helps us in the algorithm and ultimately to grow, to get more exposure to everybody, including ourselves, and ultimately just make a better product. Take a second. I'd greatly appreciate it. And on with the show.
Yeah, he was 120 pounds. I'm bigger than him, stronger, more athletic. He was an older guy too. I was like, if he can choke me 5 times with technique, imagine what I could do with my strength and technique at 220. I did the same thing. And so I think that was my start into jiu-jitsu.
It was funny, when I got into jiu-jitsu, they always told me it was the art of like the small man to defend him from the big man. And then the very next question I had, like without skipping a beat, was like, okay, well, what happens when the big guy knows it too?
Yeah, you're in trouble.
Then you're just fucked.
Yeah,
like,
that's why they have weight classes.
Yes, thank God.
So yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah,
Well,
so I want to hit on that thought process of like, oh, have you read Opening the Close Guard by Robert Drysdale?
No.
Highly recommend reading it. I think he has his master's in history. Like he wanted to become a professor, a PhD, and he wrote this book. I don't know if you know who Robert Drysdale is.
I do not, forgive me.
So he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt world champion. He's American Brazilian, and he fought in the UFC a couple times. But he's very well spoken, educated historian, amateur historian, if you will. And so he wrote this book, and he went through newspapers and all these things from Brazil, interviews, and there's a lot of history behind the marketing tactics of the Gracies when they first came to America, where they said, Elio was sick and he learned jiu-jitsu just through osmosis by watching his brothers teach it. That's not true.
No.
So, but that whole like, it's for the little person to beat the big person. That to a point, that's true, but the longer I've done jiu-jitsu, I've never seen an unathletic person without strength ever beat another guy his own weight class who uses technique and strength and athleticism, especially at the highest level. And so I don't like when people say, technique conquers all. It's like, no, you need technique, you need strength, you need to work out, you do your cardio.
Everything.
You got to do it all. If you want to be at the highest level and compete, you have to do everything.
So I coach high school wrestling, and it's one of my tenets. Is
Awesome.
like, listen, I will teach you, like my job is to come in here and teach you the techniques that you don't know. It's your job to do everything else.
Yes.
The cardio, the strength and conditioning, the diet, the recovery, like that is on you. I can't hold your hand through all aspects of this. I can teach you the tools in which to win, but it is up to you to have the body to wield them.
Absolutely. That's my take when with my coaching, it's like, we don't do any like warm-up drills, old school, like shrimping up and down the mats, all that stuff. It's like, that's not my responsibility to teach you. Like, I'm not going to do a 30-minute warm-up session to get your cardio going. That's not my job. My job is to teach you jiu-jitsu. So we do, 20, 30 minutes of technique. We do a lot of reps on it, and we go live. We spar, because that's what we're there for. That's how you get better, is the sparring and applying the technique.
When you do the sparring, is there any sort of like inclination or implementation, like, hey, we're going to do 5-minute rounds, only arm bars, or like perhaps that day you went over some sort of series, maybe a reversal into a position awareness into ending with a submission. Do you ever tell them like, hey, we're gonna spar today, and I want you guys to go as hard as you want, like decide that amongst yourselves, but I also want there to be an emphasis on X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, so during our competition phases, like we'll do, like for Chicago Open just happened in August, we did like an 8-week build up. So whenever during that time we don't teach any technique. I'm like, oh guys, look, you know your game. You're not going to get any better by just like trying to throw new techniques into your system. Let's sharpen what you already know. And so we always start off the class with like we're gonna start on our feet. Work your favorite takedown. If you don't have any takedowns, figure one out because you're gonna at some point have to do a takedown on somebody or like at least defend against them because you start every match on their feet. So we do our fit-ins. We like, okay, 5 minute, that's our warm-up session. And then it might be like, all right, 3 minutes, person on bottom, you cannot sweep or submit. It's only guard retention. Person on top, go ham. If you pass, start back over. Or I'll be like, person on top, your whole job is to not get swept. You're not passing, you're stalling inside their guard. Person on bottom, you're down by 2 points. You got to sweep.
Gotcha.
Or
basically putting the emphasis on some sort of situational awareness.
Yes. Or the one that they really liked a lot was we would go live for 5 minutes, but person on bottom, you can't sweep or submit for the first minute and a half, or even 2 minutes. You know how hard it is when somebody's like fully trying to pass your guard, and you cannot do anything besides just defend. You get really good at guard retention. So if you have that guard retention aspect down in a competition, you don't have to worry about somebody passing your guard because you know you're good. Then you can really focus on the subs and the sweeps and emphasizing, getting to a good dominant position. And then I always lead off every, whether it's, like comp class or just a regular class, all the newer people, I'm like, listen, guys, only a couple rules in jiu-jitsu. If you're on bottom, get to top. If you're on top, stay on top. That's it. If you don't know anything else, just do that. That's it. And that's kind of like how we format our class, technique, spar, and then I'll throw some little bit of spice in there every now and then.
This is kind of a broad question, but because we brought it up and because you're talking about starting on the feet, do you think, this is kind of general, so this is just your opinion, do you think that enough wrestling is taught in jiu-jitsu?
In general, no. And I think that's a downfall of a lot of jiu-jitsu schools. At our school, we incorporate quite a bit of wrestling, especially in the no-gi aspect. I mean, we have Matt Green, All-American wrestler. I've got another guy, he wrestled at the Citadel, made it to the NCAA tournament. Joaquin, just met a guy from Michigan, just graduated in like 2016. He wrestled for Michigan. I mean, that's that Big Ten school.
Yeah.
Got to be legit to get there. He's going to start coming training. And obviously, we have a lot of high school wrestlers. I high school wrestled. And I think wrestling's amazing. I think it's a super important part of the game. And we incorporate a lot at Revive. And not necessarily like on the feet wrestle, because we're already a step behind people who've done it for a long time. It's more so like counter wrestling and then wrestling up off your back. Because if I can come up on a single leg from half guard and I know how to finish it, I'm already in on the single leg. Half the battle is just getting to it when you're on your feet, right? How hard is it to shoot in on somebody who has good hand-hand defense?
It's difficult.
It's hard, right?
It's difficult.
Yeah. So if I'm on my back and already I'm on the single leg and half guard and I come up, if I taught you how to come up on a single leg every time, you'd take me down because you know how to finish the single leg. So that's kind of like our mindset at Revive is like, we're not going to tell wrestlers don't wrestle. It's just let me get to where you're really good, which is referee's position, get a guide, turtle.
Oh, yeah.
I know you know how to leg ride. I know you know how to ride somebody, spiral ride. You can make it painful.
Anatomical awareness. They know how to use leverage.
Yeah, and then if you're
for
on your
me,
back,
jiu-jitsu was incredibly easy to transition to from wrestling because a lot of that. The reason why I think wrestling is the best martial art for all the other martial arts is boxing doesn't necessarily correlate to jiu-jitsu in a similar fashion. Wrestling correlates, in my opinion, this is what I think, wrestling correlates to all the facets of martial arts the best. It's kind of like a gymnast. Like a gymnast is not going to win, gold at a specific sport, but if you did a sport where you were generalizing all athletes, the gymnast would be the best. That's how I feel about wrestling. Like the wrestler's not going to submit the jiu-jitsu guy. They're not going to knock out the boxer. They're not going to out kickbox or sweep the Muay Thai guy. But if you put them into MMA, they're going to do better than all of them.
I agree 100%. I think wrestling at the core, and you'll hear this like a lot of our competitors, they'll say like, man, I wish I would have wrestled when I was younger. And they realize, like just having the confidence on your feet to not get taken down, or I should say in general, dictate where the fight goes. right? If I want to be on top and you pull guard, cool, I'm on top. If I'm on my feet and I take you down, I'm on top. If I'm on my back and I can wrestle up and take you down, I'm back on top. So wrestling, I think, is I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think wrestling is a very vital part of grappling in general, and we implement a lot of it. I don't know if you're aware of this, but back in the day, like when I started, man, jujitsu guys would be like, you know, fuck wrestlers. Like it was jujitsu versus wrestling, and I was brought up that way until I actually started training at Boggies, and there's a lot of wrestlers there, and you know, Mike
Yeah, Mike
Rogers,
Rogers
yeah,
and all them,
St.
yeah.
Charles MMA guys, like, damn, they're hard. They're hard to do anything to. You can't sweep them. I mean, you can't sub them. The grit that they have, like they'll break you. You know, just the mentality, the constant pressure, and so from that point, when I was a purple belt, moving forward, I was like, I have to incorporate wrestling, and so we opened up Revive, and that's, I mean, a big part of our game.
You know what's funny too is the more I grapple, because that's kind of what it's weird because yes, they are separate martial arts. I would categorize wrestling as a martial art.
Yes.
Just the same way I would categorize jiu-jitsu as a
Yes.
martial art. But like if MMA is the sport of, you know, the accumulation of all martial arts, then I would say grappling is the accumulation of the hand-to-hand push-pull martial arts. So like I guess at this point in my life, I'm 32 years old now. I don't necessarily consider like jiu-jitsu separate from wrestling. I kind of consider them together. Like if you're wanting to be a practitioner of jiu-jitsu, you need to learn wrestling.
Yes.
And if you are a wrestler who's like wanting to get into grappling of any sort, like into jiu-jitsu, then you're going to have to assimilate. You're going to have to keep your base. That's where you're strong at, the mental acuity. The biggest thing wrestling gave me over jiu-jitsu guys was learning how to cut weight.
Oh,
I could
God,
cut
yeah.
weight better than any of them
Yeah.
because I was so used to it. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And the mental fortitude, like I think going from wrestling to jiu-jitsu is easier from going to jiu-jitsu to wrestling, if that
Agreed.
makes sense.
Agreed.
Now,
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing though that it did hurt me was the ego. Because in wrestling it was all about positional awareness, where in jiu-jitsu it's finite. It's like, no, I can tap you, it's over. Kind of
Yes.
like the pin.
Yes.
And for me, the hardest thing about transitioning from wrestling to jiu-jitsu was like, I can have the position. I can be on top. Well, here comes a triangle. Now I'm caught and now I'm getting strangled. And that one was the one that like, wrestling helped build my ego, helped build my mental acuity. And then in a lot of ways, jiu-jitsu had me kind of like shed some of those layers of like, okay, yes, I can take you down and yes, I can control you and all that. But you're catching me every 3 minutes with the same submission. It's
Ryan
frustrating.
Radio,
You know what I mean?
joke. Yeah.
So it was one of those things where wrestling gave me a lot, but then jiu-jitsu also taught me a lot. I still would tell anybody that this is my opinion again. I don't think I used to say that you want to wrestle first and then do jiu-jitsu. I actually go back on that now because I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think you can do both at the same time.
Agreed.
And I think that if your goal is, let's say, competition jiu-jitsu, I think you should. And if your goal is MMA, I still think you should. If your goal is combat, I don't think those are mutually exclusive anymore. I think you're going to need to have both. You're going to have the situational awareness, the propensity to generate enough force to take the fight wherever you want it to be, but also to have the technique to also bridge that maybe physical barrier, that gap, and then say, hey, yeah, you might be the bigger, stronger guy, but I'm going to catch a limb and I'm going to take it home.
Right. No, I agree. So a couple of things to unpack from that is a great statement. So like, kind of like my thought process is when it comes to competition, you don't need to know everything, right? Like if you want to be good at jiu-jitsu, you have to, and coach it, you have to know all the jiu-jitsu aspects. Same with wrestling. If you want to be a good wrestling coach, you got to know the whole game. But how many wrestlers know all their takedowns? They have like 2 takedowns, right?
No, they go back to their bread and butter.
Right. Same thing with jiu-jitsu guys. Like I have like 2 moves that I do, and that's all I do when I'm in
But
competition
you're
mode.
really
But I'm
fucking
really
good
good
at
at
them.
it. Yes. So yeah, as a competitor, you can train wrestling and jiu-jitsu and MMA if you're doing MMA, boxing, and be really good at your specific set and beat a lot of really good people. You don't have to know the breadth of knowledge, you have to have, or the depth of knowledge or breadth, right? It's just, this is all I need to know. I gotta be really good at it. And so I like that, like you talking about that, it's super important. They're not mutually exclusive. You can train both and be really good at both. It's tying it together. That's where your coach is gonna have to, like, hey, like for me, when I get wrestlers, I love getting wrestlers. I'm like, hey man, look, your only job is to get, if you're on your back, don't freak out, number 1. Number 2, get to half guard, come up on a single leg. That's all I care about. Don't do any other sweep. I don't care about triangles from guard. Don't do that. That's dumb. Work your single leg, get on top, and then when you're on top, you're wrestling. How many people have you wrestled against and pinned, right, or like held down. Probably a lot of people in practice over the time you've done wrestling. Why would I tell you, hey, you're really good at this one thing, stop doing it? It makes no sense, especially if you want to be a competitor. And then you go down further. Let's say I go against another wrestler. Like, for instance, we had Matt Green when he was a purple belt. He did the Worlds, and he had lost to another college wrestler at the Pans previous that year by an advantage. He wrestled with them. Guy got a couple single leg attempts, and that was it. Nothing major. So the coaching part of it that I gave him was like, listen, you do jiu-jitsu against a wrestler, and you wrestle against jiu-jitsu guys. This guy's a wrestler. Pull guard. Make him engage, and then you wrestle up on it. And that's exactly what he did. He pulled guard, did a jiu-jitsu move, a little kiss the dragon berimbolo out the back door, came up on top, took the guy down, won 2-0 in the World's Finals, right? And so you got to have everything. I guess that's my main point, is you got to be able to do everything and then figure out what strategy works best against the person you're going against.
I have a very similar quote. Once again, this is like in wrestling, but I think it still transcends. I tell the kids, I say, listen, if you lose a match, it's not because you hadn't seen that move before. It is my job as an instructor to show you everything. It's your job as a competitor to pick and choose what works for your frame, your cardio levels, your strength levels. Like, if you're a top-heavy guy, you might like a lot of more throws.
Yeah, Greco stuff,
or
right?
if you're maybe, a lengthier guy, you might want to be more of a scrambler, like get on top position, ride legs, and go for positions of that nature. It's not my job to dictate to you how to wrestle. It's my job to show you wrestling. It's your job to figure out what you like for yourself. But I never want you to lose coming back to me saying, I never saw that.
Right.
What was that?
Right.
Because then that means I failed as a coach. I did not instruct you properly. That was always my mentality. It's like, if you go in there and the guy does something to you and he beats you, I mean, listen, there's always a bigger fish in the pond. Or maybe you were the better guy, but that night was the 1 out of 10 that he catches you.
Right.
You know what I mean? That also happens. I'm okay with you coming back saying, wasn't my night, or he was stronger than me. I'm not okay with you coming back going, what the fuck did he just do?
I didn't see that.
Yeah. Then I'm like, oh no, I failed you.
Right.
So I'm glad to hear you say something very similar, because I didn't know if I was like, crazy with that mentality.
No, I think it's a great mentality. Like, as I've been coaching jiu-jitsu now since I was a blue belt, so, man, 18 years. I helped as a blue belt and then taught mainly a lot of classes of purple and then on. And so, yeah, I kind of came up with that same mindset of like, hey, look, like, my job's to show you as much as I can. I mean, they're in the jiu-jitsu world. I feel like there's a lot more, especially gi. There's a lot more stuff that you have to show compared to no gi and wrestling. Like, when was the last time we saw a new, some sort of new takedown in wrestling? Probably never, right?
It's difficult.
Yeah, it's like,
it's also one of the oldest.
It is
martial arts ever.
I mean,
you know what
it's like they figured out everything back in 2,000 years ago, right?
I think with advancements of technology and everything, to that point, I think what we see now is not necessarily new moves, and I don't know if this is the same in jiu-jitsu, but you find variations of, so yeah, it's still the single leg, but perhaps different ways to set it up, different ways to finish,
Yes.
different ways to transition to that. So it's not necessarily like a single leg is a single leg. You're just finding all the intricacies into that. And I actually find that to be the same in jiu-jitsu. You might disagree with me.
No, I agree.
But it's like, okay, an arm bar is an arm
Yep.
bar, right? So like, we know the submission. The deviations are everything leading up to that. That's where the variety comes
Yes.
from. But at the end of the day, the arm bar that you learned on your first or second day of jiu-jitsu is going to be the same arm bar you're finishing your 30th year.
100%. I mean, there are some new things in jiu-jitsu, like the lapel guard, the worm guard. Keenan Cornelius, he just took what was already established from Cobrini or people before him and evolved and made a whole lot of new things with it. So he's pretty innovative, but he's just one guy who plays it really well. I don't know, it doesn't fit my body type, and there's other people that it doesn't really work for. But work for his body type and people like him, flexible, lengthy people.
But obviously, it's important enough for you to be aware of.
Yeah, you got to know how to defeat
know how to defend it.
Yes,
yeah.
But like other than that, I mean, the biggest, I guess the biggest technological advances, quote unquote, in jiu-jitsu that I've seen in my 20 years has been 50-50, berimbolo, worm guard. Those are like the leg locks and no-gi. Like, those are the biggest things. But otherwise, spider guard, arm bar's an arm bar, close guard, all that stuff's the same. It's just the setups to get to the sweeps is a little bit different, just like wrestling. So yeah.
Can I ask you a question about, because you were talking about like how you started coaching when you were a blue belt and stuff like that. You right now at this point in time, you own your own jiu-jitsu gym, Revive, but yet you are still, I'm assuming you are the owner and lead instructor. I don't know the structure completely, but I would assume so. If I'm wrong, please correct me.
Yep.
But you're also still actively competing yourself.
Yes.
I think that that is one of the hardest things to do, is to still actively compete and be an instructor, because I think that the definition of competition is selfish, and the definition of instructing is selfless. So can you just briefly maybe discuss your philosophy or how you approach that? Because they are two completely separate things in my opinion, but I think that the best instructors are the ones that compete, and the best competitors make the best instructors.
So I'm lucky. I'm very blessed to have a business partner, Junior Silva, and so he and I split classes. So I have a set schedule. With my new job, I've been traveling a lot more, but set schedule where I have certain classes I teach. He has certain classes he teaches. If I want to go train, this is where the athlete competitor, I get to foster that, is that I teach my class, and I try to structure the class around things that like I've seen in previous tournaments that we need to work on, or I'm watching in class like, hey, our guys are constantly messing up this particular move, and I'll kind of dig deeper into that. But when it's time for sparring, I jump right in. Like I still spar with all my people, and thankfully I have Junior there. He watches over class, and he acts as like the coach at that point.
Yeah, you need someone to watch the room.
Yes.
Agreed.
So I'll say I'll attribute a lot of our success to Junior and him being that he's been more of a coach than I have. I'll say that outright. He's been the leading force with getting people to go do tournaments and like the driving factor. I'm showing techniques and kind of tailoring my classes to what I'm seeing. But up until recently, I've been kind of taking a hiatus a little bit just with injuries, and I'm getting older, where I've been focusing more on the coach's role. But during my heyday, 5 years ago until about 3 years ago, when I was actually winning all the big tournaments, Junior coached me and he coached everybody else. I taught the class and he was in there coaching. And then also I had like Kyle Watson, Josh McKinney, Luigi Fioraventi when he was still here, Jeff Schultz, who's another black belt. Like they all kind of helped mold me.
It's a tough fucking room.
Yeah,
Jesus.
tough room. And so they helped coach me and mold me to, but now when I just competed in August, I had to put my team first, right? So I structured the competition classes. We got the drills going. I'm giving verbal cues and coaching tips, and then we would do like strategy classes, like, hey, this is how we should play this particular type of person if they do this or that. And so we'd get into the finer nitty gritty. But
That's impressive, because that's like some of the things I also hear in fighting. I didn't know that you guys did that
Oh,
in
yeah.
jiu-jitsu as well.
Oh, yeah. There's,
like watching tape and
oh, yeah.
coming up with a game
Oh, yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
I'm a little ignorant to this. Forgive me.
So it's, I mean, like, again, to your previous point, do I think that jiu-jitsu like doesn't do enough wrestling? Yes. Do I think that jiu-jitsu doesn't do enough like coaching and analyzing and strategizing? Yes, I really do. And I got into it because I tell people, like, I'm not the best at jiu-jitsu. I've beaten a lot of people that are a lot better than me at jiu-jitsu, only because of strategy. Like just recently had a match with a guy that had beat me before, and he is very talented, and we met in the absolute semis, and I knew what his game plan was, and I had built a game plan to counter him because I knew we were going to meet at some point, and it worked flawlessly. Like he's heavy takedowns, he pushes the pace hard, so I just played the edges of the mat. Every time he took me down, we did out of bounds, no points, and I get back in the middle, and he started frustrating, and I'm 50 pounds heavier than him, so he started getting tired. He made a mistake, I capitalized on it,
And that's the
beat
difference.
him. Yeah, and that's all it takes with black belt. But back to the point, yeah, like Junior, owe it all to him. He's the greatest business partner I could ever ask for. He's a great coach, great friend. But it is difficult for a lot of people to not be selfish for themselves when they get ready to compete, because obviously you have to get yourself better. But I think that one thing that I'm blessed with is I've been doing this 20 years, and I know what it takes to compete and win, and I don't have to be as much of a jerk as I was when I was younger.
Can I kind of piggyback off that? I'm gonna briefly switch topics, but you say that you very much benefit from Junior being in there, and like he's a very good business partner, and I kind of want to take that just for a second and lead that towards like this entrepreneurial route, because one of the things I really like to talk about on this podcast is business.
Yeah.
Because I think that the true measure of freedom is not necessarily climbing a corporate ladder, but it's working for yourself at some point in time.
Absolutely.
So I have a lot of people that come up to me and they're like, I have this business idea, and you know, would you go into business with me? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Like maybe this is, I don't know, insert whatever industry. It might not necessarily be my cup of tea, but I always say, like, I don't invest in the industry. I invest in the people. If the guy or girl is like an overachiever, good work ethic, intelligent, strong at, figuring out how to fix problems, I'll invest into whatever it is that you want to do, because I really don't care about the business. I care about you. However, there's a lot of people that also think that investment is like just straight up monetary. I have a lot of people that are like, hey, we'll give you like 10% equity for like 50,000 or whatever. And I go, okay, well, what's my value add? Like, what do you want from me? They're
Right.
like, well, we just need the capital. Well, then go to the fucking bank.
Yeah, go to the bank, get a loan. Yeah.
How important is it when you're structuring any business, like obviously for you it's a gym, to have that junior in your corner, to have the support system? I'm sure your wife has to put up with, just like my wife does, puts up with a lot.
Yes.
I often say that, like, yeah, my businesses are sole proprietorships, but like I have a slew of people around me that if I did not have, I would not have. And I just think to myself, it's not necessarily just money, but it's also that value add. So when you talked about having Junior in your corner, can you please just dig in a little deeper? Like, let me ask you this. Would you have Revive today without him?
No, Junior would have Revive, and I'll tell you why. So, I work in corporate America, right? And so I'm a multi-state director. I fly out a lot to different states and manage regional directors and whatnot. And so right now I just don't have the time to be at the gym as much as my students deserve. And at the point where I took this career change, Revive would have had to close down. Like I would have not been able to run it by myself, right? And so I rely on him. Like, we have a really good partnership. I rely on him. Like, hey, I'm going to be out of town for these days. He covers class. When he's out in Brazil or whatever, I cover his classes. And a lot of people want to be the sole proprietor of their gym, their jiu-jitsu, because like, oh, I want to make more money. Yeah, you're going to make more money, but the grind's twice as hard. The hours is twice as long. Your family is going to see you twice as less, right? Like, they're not going to see you as much. And so you got to kind of put a value on what you want to have. Is the money worth not having a family, not having a life, having the stress and anguish and full financial struggles that you're going to have for could be a few years when you own a gym? Or do you want to go into it with a partner, be able to bounce ideas off him, right? Speak to like the direction that you want to take it, and have them also financially support you, like HEOs have, IO have.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
it helps.
It helps quite a
when
bit.
liabilities come in, or what have you.
And so
You need a new roof. You
yeah.
need something happens.
It's got to come out. Somebody's got to
I don't
pay
know
for
if you
it.
own the building or if you lease. Or
We lease, thank God. But
so
you still
forgive me.
gotta-
There are variables.
Yes. So I mean, like when we first started, we paid out of pocket, for months out of our own pocket. We had to pay for the mats, we paid for the space, the utilities, marketing, everything. We had to pay out of our own pockets. And
If you don't mind me asking, how many thousands of dollars do you think you were in the red before you made your first? Not profit.
tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of
Was
dollars.
it more than you initially thought it would be?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like with everybody.
Yep.
And so, thankfully we opened up, and now we can look back and be like, wow, this was a blessing. We opened up a couple months before COVID hit. And so we had to shut down like everybody else, but St. Charles, home of the real Americans, they're like, hey, we're opening back up 5 weeks later. And so we were one of the only gyms that was opened up during that time. A lot of the other jiu-jitsu gyms were staying shut down or had to do their masks and the little squares and all that dumb stuff. And I told Junior, I was like, hey, man, listen, we're never shutting down again, ever. Like, we did it once. We did our part, right? And I'm not doing it again. And we started seeing a lot of people who were tired of being stuck in their house come train jiu-jitsu. They wanted some normalcy. And our gym, like, really blew up. We thought, initially we were both freaking out. We're like, oh, my God, we're going to have to shut down the gym. We just started, like, 3 months prior.
What the fuck are we going to do?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, my God. And we're like, let's stick it out. We got the PPP and all that other stuff. And, man, it was, looking back now, it was a blessing. We had skyrocketed our growth within, a couple of months after shutting down. So, yeah.
I feel very weird about COVID personally because simultaneously it was such a shit time
Oh,
for
God, it
like
was.
everyone around me.
Yes.
But Nick, if I can be honest with you, it changed my life.
Yeah.
My net worth and everything. I often say this, and I tell people this now, even today, because like there's a lot of doom and gloom about a lot of America. And I always say, listen, in this land, and it's an abundant one in opportunity, and it has always and will always be, so long as we have our form of government and our capitalistic morals, or at least at the very least mixed economy morals. The abundance of opportunity has never diluted. The percentage has always been the same. And for me, COVID and all these other things, even though I hated how we reacted and all these other things, I hate to say it this way, it changed my life for the better. And I am in a different position financially, with my family as a man because of the opportunities that COVID afforded me that maybe some other people weren't necessarily up to taking. They left for me, and then I was like, I'll run with this shit.
I agree 100%. Like, it took a lot of people out of the workforce.
Yes.
Took a lot of
Some
people.
of them have still not returned.
Oh yeah, I know, it's crazy. Like,
It's
bro,
insane.
It's been years. Take the mask off and get back to work.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. So
Also,
yeah.
hot take: if you're a man, I don't want to hear it.
Exactly.
Dude, I hate that shit more than anything.
Yep.
Talk
Oh,
about
no.
your feelings. Be as sensitive as you want to be. Shut the fuck
Yeah,
up.
get
You're a
back to
man.
work. Get back to work.
It comes with a lot of benefits.
Yeah.
I don't have to be pregnant. I get to be the arbiter of my own world. Yeah. But you know what that comes with? Comes at a price.
Yeah, a lot of men die early.
Yes.
Because of work and stress.
I'm
and
here for a good time, not a
dangerous
long
jobs.
one.
Exactly. I agree 100%. And yeah, I mean, it changed my life too. Like the gym, and then obviously I was able to switch careers. And I was in healthcare as a clinician, got out of that and got into sales in healthcare, and man, it's been
Funny
great.
that you say that. I did something similar. I got out of finance and I went into information systems, automation, and now I myself am slowly going into. I used to think that I'd be awful at sales. When I was like 20, 21, 22, I was like, oh my God, sales positions.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds so difficult.
Yeah,
I have to
yeah.
convince someone to buy something. Now I realize that I don't know if it's because as I got older, I got a little bit more, not confident, but I just learned more about life. So then I just have more in common with people because I've experienced more things. Therefore, my perspective on things has broadened. And now it's not so much like I don't feel like sales is I'm selling something as much as I'm just trying to solve a problem. You have a problem. Perhaps I have a service or a product to help solve that problem. And once I started looking at it like that,
Oh yeah, I when I first got approached about taking a sales role, just as an account executive, just entry level sales.
intimidating.
I was like, man,
You don't
no.
know.
I'm like, I don't know about this. I'm like, would I be good at sales? Like, us? I don't want to be
And the
pressures.
stability of the previous
Yes.
role.
Yes.
Because that's a salary.
It is.
You know what I mean? I
And-
can count on that.
Yeah,
It's
and
scary going into something that's
commission.
Yeah.
yeah. Now we like it was salary plus commission, which is great. But
that's the best.
yeah,
That's the
it was
best.
awesome. It still is awesome. But yeah, it's I was like, man, would I be good at this? Thank God though, I had the clinician background where I'm like, if I suck, then I'll just go back to being a clinician. No harm, no foul. Let's give it a shot because I was getting burnt out. I was a therapy manager at a long-term care facility. And it's like, even though it's a different person, it's literally Groundhog Day. Same thing over and over. How many knees, shoulders, and hips until you're in backs are like, God, it's the same thing. Like, lose weight. Let's do some exercises. Like, seriously, that's what it is. So
My body hurts. I
yeah,
don't move.
Like, yeah, you need to move, bud. The body's designed to move.
Funny how that works.
Yeah. So I took a shot, and man, I found I was really good at it. I was number 5 in the company, or the company I worked for were the 8th largest in the nation.
God
And
bless.
I was number 5 out of everybody. Got promoted to a regional director. My team was rocking and rolling. I was like number 1 regional. Got promoted to essentially a VP role. And yeah, if it weren't for COVID, I would have never probably taken that chance. And I'm really glad I did. So COVID, yeah, same thing, double-edged sword. Really sucked what happened to the economy, and we still are feeling
Brother,
the effects
we're
of
gonna
COVID.
feel that the rest of our lives.
It's crazy,
Because
right?
for 2 years we relegated a subsect of. First of all, let's call a spade a spade. So if you were in school, primary, secondary,
Yeah.
or elementary,
Looking at screen.
yeah, well, 2 years of lesser social skills, mathematics, reading, every sort of metric that you can measure in the dumps. Unless you give those kids those 2 years back in education, they're going to be at a disadvantage for the rest of their lives. So let's say these kids live till 80. We will experience the ramifications on a societal level for our entire lives.
Absolutely.
There will be 2 years, not 2 generations, sorry, 2 years in a generation that are just fucked. And I feel like that is a disservice to them. And it makes me feel very sad. But at the flip of it, I genuinely hope that the recency of it will be one of those things where, like, my generation is the generation, so I'm a millennial. I was born in 92, and even though I'm an immigrant, the only thing I really remember is America. We came here when I was like 4 years old.
Where do you come from?
I originally was born in Albania.
Okay.
But,
Well, I'm Greek and Italian, so we're close. Yeah.
We're
close,
like almost brothers.
One of my uncles is Macedonian, so he's living
That's
closer.
funny. Yeah, even closer. So we lived in Greece for 2 years.
Okay.
When we left Albania, we did so under the immigration lottery, and we didn't have our papers to get to America. So we lived in Greece for like 2.5 years. My dad worked and whatever. And then once we got our papers, we came over to America. Thank God for my uncle, who, that is the city of Lin. That lake is Orin, my uncle, during communism, like when communism was.
Yugoslavia, right?
Yeah. Well, Albania was still like a sovereign nation. They still had announced their independence prior, but Albania was like under the Iron Curtain and believed in communism. So that lake, my uncle swam to Macedonia.
Wow.
To like freedom.
For freedom. Wow.
And then when we were in Albania recently, I took a picture of me swimming in that lake, and I sent it to my uncle and said, "You and I swam in the same lake. 25, 30 years apart for completely different reasons.
Yeah, that's amazing.
We were talking about this a little off the record, but I genuinely believe that those who don't understand their history are doomed to repeat it.
100%.
And the thing I liked about lived history, especially in today's day of like hyper technological, recording of history, because now it's not like you're reading a textbook. There's the Wayback Machine. You can, I mean, it's hard to be ignorant nowadays.
Yes.
Let me put it to you that way.
You have to be willfully ignorant.
You have to choose it.
Yes, you do.
Ignorance is a choice now.
It is.
You can at any point not be ignorant. So if you are, that's something that you either subconsciously or consciously decided. But I think that the recency and the severity of what we did during COVID will echo my lifetime. At least I hope it does. That my generation will be like, we went full retard and we're not doing that again.
Well, one of the things that I don't know what your take is on this. I'd like to hear. College institutions, it's they were charging a lot of money for you to be there, and then you were getting the same education online.
I think university is going to have to fundamentally change the next
Agreed.
5 years, or it will. Well, here's the other thing. I think that everything. This is going to be kind of my opinion, no other person's opinion. Everything that the government gets involved in balloons and then explodes.
Tanks.
Yes.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So housing with the
healthcare,
tax incentive,
housing, college, everything.
Literally everything. Literally everything. Because what you're doing is, I don't necessarily believe in pure capitalism because it'll eat itself. You'll get, monopolies in every single industry, and then they'll work together, and then the same force that causes for competition and the lowering of prices
cut it out.
will then create the exact opposite, because there's no other players in the game, and you'll only have one, which will essentially be communism, but instead of the government owning the means of production, it's industry, right? So you don't necessarily want pure capitalism, and you don't want communism. That's why we have a mixed economy. I think that the government's job is to come in where needed for a specific amount of time, or antitrust specifically. That's about it.
Yep.
You should not be supplementing or creating a market where there doesn't need to be one, or at the very least, if you're creating legislation, like I'll give you an example. When Obamacare happened, Centene as a company skyrocketed. For those that don't understand, Obamacare basically mandated that everybody in the nation had to get health insurance, either through their marketplace or through a private insurer. Nothing wrong with that on its face, but it's one of those instances where the legislative body created a law that the executive branch could not necessarily execute because the infrastructure wasn't there. The states didn't know how to do it.
And then they would fine you if you didn't have it.
Yes.
And you hey, I'm a healthy 20-year-old. Hey, you're getting fined.
Yes.
Like whatever, X amount of dollars a day since you don't have insurance.
But even worse than that, because let's say you live in, I don't mean to sound disrespectful when I say this. Let's say you live in Rhode Island. And, the population of Rhode Island is lower. The tax revenue of Rhode Island is lower. So their means are perhaps a little lower. They might not have the infrastructure to facilitate a public sector marketplace for health insurance. So what did they do? They outsourced to companies like Centene. And that, for those that don't know, that's what Centene does. They essentially handle, the dialers, the communications,
too, right?
billing, and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that. With the
yeah.
they essentially take on the role of the state for this because the states don't have the infrastructure themselves. Once again, nothing on face value wrong with that, but then you have to ask yourself like a logical question: would Centene be as big as it is and as profitable as it is if it wasn't for Obamacare?
No.
Now, this is actually one of the lesser things about that because what happened was legislation was created under the good means and whatever. I'm not here to argue the morality of Obamacare, but then because of that, companies like Centene ballooned. So if it wasn't for that legislation, you wouldn't have that. That is the acceptable format because that's an outcome and they're still providing a service. Totally fine with that. What I don't necessarily like is the Pell Grant system for education.
Pell Grants.
Because what you're doing is you're inflating money to people to then spend on education. And now these schools understand like, okay, well, these kids that used to not be able to afford this now can because they're going to take it out as a loan.
Oh, yeah.
So now we have supply and demand. There's a certain amount of supply of education. And now because of the Pell Grant system, we have overwhelmed the demand. Well, what happens to the price? It becomes unreasonable, unrecognizable in a fair market. So when people are like sitting here saying like I'm $100,000 in student loan debt, okay, boomer, when you went to school, you could pay for education on a summer job. Yeah, because the government wasn't involved in it.
They weren't involved. Yeah.
So
yeah.
like you're the arbiters of your own failure.
If you know that if I'm a business and I know my customer's guaranteed to get $60,000, guaranteed. Guess what? I just charged
$60,001.
Yeah, cool. Come on in, man.
Yeah.
Give me all your money. Yeah.
Not just that, but there was also like this psychosis of I was the generation that like when I was in high school, if you were not going to university, you were a loser.
Yep.
Dude, people would go into the army or military service and like they were looked at as like, oh, you're not smart enough to go to college.
Oh yeah.
That was the thing. And
yeah.
if you went to a community college, ha ha ha, you're not smart enough. You didn't get a scholarship. You didn't take out a bunch of debt.
But they give you the what is the program here? The A+ program, is that what it is?
Yes, yes.
So you get 2 years free.
No, the smartest thing to do
is go to community college.
if you live in the state of Missouri because of the A+ program, the smartest thing to do is get A+. Even if you can't, unless you're going to university for free on a full ride scholarship, get A+, get your associate's degree.
Yeah.
Once you get your associate's degree, then transfer because then you're gonna take general education classes anyway. You're not even going towards your major.
And why pay $600 a credit hour when you could pay $100 a credit hour?
Which then brings up the question of like, this is why I think that education is gonna have to change because nowadays I don't have to hire someone. I can teach someone how to do a job.
Yeah.
What I want is, do you have the technical skill set? Do you know how to use a computer? Do you know how to use Microsoft Excel? I can teach you a white collar job. I know guys that are opening up their own, plumbing, HVAC, electrical engineering from trade school.
Yeah.
Why? Because they cut out all the bullshit. Here's an 18-month crash course. You're not learning English for the 18th year or any of these things. Because
why do you need algebra? And
I hate to say it this way. It's not conducive to the work that you're doing. It's not that it's not important. It's just you have a finite amount of time and resources. So why am I teaching you all this other shit that's not going to help you in the craft of your choice? Streamline it. Maybe you'll disagree with me. Outside of like fringe cases like doctors and things like that.
I agree 100%.
I don't think you need a degree for half these jobs.
Agreed. So I'm a dumb Army guy. I went to college. I got 3 college degrees, free, but mind you, all paid for by U.S. government.
Not free. You paid for it just in a different way.
I didn't have to pay out of my own pocket.
Fair.
Yeah. So unlike other kids who have college debt, so the dumb guy who went to the military, 3 college degrees.
Sorry.
No.
You earned that.
Yeah, no.
That's not free. You paid for it in a different way.
But to their argument, how they said, if you don't go to college, you go in the military, you're dumb. Well, I got 3 degrees. Do what you will with it. One's a clinical degree, and the other 2 are business-minded degrees. And as a hiring manager, as a VP a multi-state director for a large corporation, I don't look at any college education degrees at all. I don't need it in sales. Either you're good at it or you're not.
Do you just interview?
Interview. We have a system that we follow, works really well. My boss created it, and the determining factors. It's foolproof essentially. Like 90% of people I hire hit all these marks, they're going to be good to go. Do
you do like a personality test? Like, what is your hiring process?
No,
like?
it's
high level, not into.
So we do multiple interviews, right? So my regionals usually source them, interview first if they think they're good to go based on the system that we have. I'll come in and interview. We'll do a team interview, and then we always tell them, hey, like, we got to make sure you're right fit for us, but you also need to be a good fit. We need to be a good fit for you. And then. We have multiple interviews. It's like 4 interviews before you get selected to come onto the team. And I would say most of the people that we've hired are still with the company, and our company has let's see, the top 50% of our sales force hasn't left the company in the last 2 years.
Well, it makes sense because
It's a good culture and they're good people, and I mean
they're
that's
also in the top 50%.
yeah, well,
It's easy to be happy when you're
for sure when you're
above
making
the
money.
average.
Yeah, and but it just tells you like we pick good people and they want to stay in a good culture, and so but yeah, our interview process is pretty robust. We have multiple interviews, especially if we're interviewing for like a leadership role. I remember a guy I was hiring up in Michigan. Man, it probably took us 3 months, the whole interview process. Like he went through multiple interviews with myself, other state directors. Like it was his clinical counterparts, everybody.
There's a growing criticism, a small deviation, forgive me. There's a growing criticism about the job market, about these like long interview processes. There's a lot of people like on Indeed and stuff like that, or LinkedIn, actually a little less LinkedIn, but mostly like Indeed, Monster.com, any of these like job sites where they're like, I had to do 3 interviews, I had to do this, that, or the other for this job. And usually the criticism is also tied to then like, it's like an entry level position with like $50,000 a year. For me as an individual, I can understand that criticism because I also would not necessarily think that that is needed for that type of role. However, I think once you start getting up into the echelon, maybe not necessarily like the executive level, but leadership, middle management, whatever, I think that is kind of important. Can you kind of speak to your interview process as specific to the role? So like obviously you said you did a 3-month interview with this individual, but this individual then doesn't seem like your entry level position.
He wasn't. Yeah. So I look at it this way, like
Sorry.
my bad. I look at it this way from
It's all good. Don't worry about it.
From higher level. I am in an executive role, higher level, looking down. It's much better to measure twice, cut once, because think about the funds that we put into the training. I mean, like, so our entry level nurses, for instance, they come on. We have to. I mean, it's anywhere from 8 to 12-week long train up period. I mean, think about the money we're investing in somebody for the train up. They get they get their tablets and all the medical equipment they need, the training. I mean, we have to build these accounts for them through our EMR, which is our medical recording system. All these different things that we have to put into this one individual, and we're talking like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, well beyond what their salary would be if it's a 50K. I'm saying it's more, but let's say it's that. We're putting in a lot more money, a lot more funds for this person to just have turnover less than 6 months later. We're not getting a return on investment from the business.
You're losing money.
Exactly. So from the higher level, that's how we look at it. It's like, okay, it might take longer to interview, but on our end, the business side, we have to protect our business first, our business interests, which are obviously we have a fiduciary responsibility not to just be wasteful with our funding.
Of course.
And so when we hire these people, it's like, okay, we're double checking on our end that you're not going to leave in 6 months, right? On the sales side, it's a little different. I mean, there's obviously expected turnover in sales because if you don't perform, it's a performance-based gig. But we want to try to minimize turnover as much as possible. So we want to grow the tenure of our reps and have them stay with the company longer because obviously we get a good return on investment and they're also helping grow the company. But on the flip side, when they're a new rep, we do expect some turnover. It is built into the system. However, we want to minimize that as much as possible. So whenever we interview, we want to ensure that, again, they're a right fit for their culture. They meet the parameters of what our onboarding system and our interview system looks like. And then, we have there's less of a chance for us to have that turnover long term if they hit those rather than one interview. Hey, I like your chops. Like, I think you're good. Anybody can interview great once.
Oh, dude.
But
I'll tell you this right now. I'm great at interviewing. I am. I really am. It's a skill set I know I have because I genuinely, this is going to sound kind of fucked up. I've applied for positions just to interview because I enjoy the process. And then like afterwards, I'm like, oh, this is the pay? I'm good.
Well, look.
They might get mad at me because they're like, oh, you're wasting our time. I didn't know, because a lot of positions also don't necessarily upfront with
they're not.
With the salary and stuff like that. So like, I'm also kind of like playing the field like, all right, well, let's see what's offered. I'll be completely honest with you. I've gotten positions before only to take them to my current employer. And I don't believe in asking for raises or promotions. I believe in showing what my market value is. And like, this person is offering me this position at this pay. This is my new market value. Do you want to match? That's the beauty of a pre-recorded show. We can always cut things out. So we were talking about specifically the marketplace value and all that. And then we kind of derailed a little bit, had a conversation off the record that I actually want to bring back onto the record. So you were talking about how in your current role, there were a lot of, sorry, I'm going to move a little closer to you. Yeah, you're good. There were a lot of things that were afforded to you because you've been with this company now for 3 years and you've developed some skin in the game. You were very much rewarded for your hard work and your perseverance in that in a very short amount of time. I know a couple of people like you where they have worked very short amounts of time in certain industries. I have a friend who started as a bud tender in the cannabis industry, and in the course of 2.5 years, she's now the director of marketing.
Nice.
You know what I mean? 5x'd her salary. Let me put it to you that way. And she's crushing it right now. She's doing really great. But once again, like, tough times, COVID and all this other stuff, everybody around you is like talking about how the economy could never be worse. But yet I'm seeing people like change their lives in a relatively short amount of time. In previous generations, for you to double your income in less than 3 years was pretty much unheard of unless you were investing in something, were an equity stakeholder in a company, or starting your own company, right? Or winning the lottery. These were basically your only options. We were going to talk about a myriad of topics, but let's touch on first the work ethic and the marketplace of labor right now. I'll start with a comment and then you can build on it. I think that there can be two things that are correct at the same time, because there are a lot of criticisms that I hear from people my age. So I'm a millennial, and then you're what is your generation?
Z.
Forgive me.
Gen Z.
Z. Yeah. So you're the generation after me, I believe, or I don't know if maybe there's a generation between that.
Yeah.
X.
Gen Alpha.
I did.
That's like my little brother.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm 32. You're 18, 19. You're
41.
So you're the generation.
No, I'm on the front end of millennial.
Okay.
I'm
So
like one
we're
of the
right
first
there on
ones.
the same.
Yep.
Okay, so like mine's. It is true that for the last 25 to 30 years, the growing apathy was because we have been constantly borrowing from tomorrow for today. And now we are experiencing in real time, you have to balance a budget. You can't spend money you don't have. Things do end up catching up to you. And you are running a $40 trillion debt ceiling. Yes, the previous generations fucked a lot of shit up. However, it is also true that our generation is the generation of apathy and sadness, and they don't see the opportunities afforded to them. And I hate to use the word entitled, but I do see a lot of entitlement. I see a lot of people that think they deserve the raise, think they deserve 10%. This is the thing that gets me all the time. The cost of living adjustment. I have friends that work corporate America, not necessarily entrepreneurially minded. I wouldn't say that they're good or bad employees. They're probably middle of the road. But the entitlement that they have at their annual their annual compensation package.
Like 3%, 4%.
Yeah. No, 3.
They want more?
Dude, I had a guy who was like, well, inflation was 10% year over year, so I want that plus my 5%.
Yeah,
I was like, so
that
you
ain't
want
happening.
15%, a 15% raise for what? Providing the same amount of value. Like, I can understand the thought process, but what gets me is the entitlement. Like, why do you think that's normal?
And then you want it year over year?
Yes, that's what I was saying.
Like, you're
yeah.
out of your mind. Like,
Yes.
sorry, bud. It's not how it
For
works.
doing the same thing.
Yes.
If you're increasing your roles and responsibilities, if you're going above and beyond, and above and beyond is such a broad term, but everybody who has gone above and beyond instantly understands what I'm saying when I say it.
Yes.
Going above and beyond means you have roles and responsibilities, but when problems present themselves, are you solving them without being instructed? Are you creating the solutions or streamlining things or creating efficiencies in all aspects? You don't have to be in information systems or finance or sales. This can be you have a plumbing company or you work for a plumbing company, and instead of being told what to do, you've experienced enough that you can see the problems coming before they actually occur, and you can solve them before they even happen.
So I use the assets versus liabilities talk in the military, right, for some of my soldiers, and we have these things. They're called implied tasks. Like you're talking like as a plumber, right? You're an apprentice, right? So you should know your job, and if you don't know your job, ask how to do your job. But there are tasks that you should do just, I don't know, like sweeping up after you just drilled a hole in the wall or something. That should be a no-nonsense task that you should already know how to do, that I shouldn't have to tell you to do. Because me as a foreman or manager or whatever, If I have to tell you how to do your job, that means I'm doing two jobs at once, right? And so at that point, you're a liability and you're not an overachiever. You don't deserve a raise. But if you're an asset, like you're getting it done before I tell you to do it, or you're bringing things to my attention, like, hey, Nick, I got this going on. I think it's going to be a really good solution to a problem. I'm forward thinking. You're now an asset to my team. I'm going to give you the raise. I want you to move up in the company because I can use you to leverage your skill set to make my company more profitable. And people don't think of it in those like assets versus liabilities, right? You're either one or the other.
They think, fuck you, pay me.
Yeah, like, hey,
the majority of people.
You owe me because
I shut up 9 to
because
5.
I'm here. Guess what? This is a mutually beneficial contract. I'm employing you and paying you money, so you need to do your job. And if you don't do your job, then you need to go somewhere else and be successful somewhere else.
I had to have a conversation with one of my employees. I'm like, when you fuck something up, when you don't hit the mark, when you're late on something, do I dock your pay? Do I take that out of your pay? Even though that will directly result in me receiving less money. Do I ever trickle that loss down to you? No. Then why do you think every revenue dollar that I get has to be trickled down to you as well?
Exactly.
Because I'll tell you this right now, and people don't want to hear this. Unless you're bringing in, it's the same way I felt about fighting, actually. I'm going to use this metaphor. In fighting, we sell tickets and all this other stuff. So let's say you're a professional fighter, and you say, hey, I'm the next best thing since sliced bread. I deserve $5,000 a show, $5,000 to win. Okay, well, then guess what the promoter is going to say to you? Okay,
sell X amount of tickets.
If you can sell those tickets, and then maybe I do believe you the best thing since sliced bread. Whenever I was negotiating my pay for fights, it was such an easy calculus to me. Okay, I sell about 100 tickets. That's roughly $7,500 in revenue for them. If I cost them 2 and 2, okay, and then my opponent, who's probably going to have to get flown out or whatever, there's travel, they're going to have to pay him. Then I get 10% commission for my ticket sales. Actually, even though I sold 100 tickets, because of my price and everything, they probably break even on me.
Right.
They don't even make money on me. So then how do I go to my promoter and say, hey, I want more money?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, you know how I get it? I'll sell a couple more tickets. And then maybe I'll win a couple more fights, get a little bit more notoriety, sell more tickets out of that. And then I can say, okay, I'm now not a 100 ticket seller, I'm a 150 ticket seller. And people don't want to hear that because they think like, oh, well, I'm a fighter, my job is fighting. Yes, but if no one wants to see you, then you suck at fighting. I'm sorry. And that's the same way it is in the workplace.
Yes.
You might have all the skill sets. You might. But you might not be able to execute properly, or you don't know how to do it in that industry or with that company or the way they do things. So you have the technical acumen, but you don't know how to apply it. That takes time, like you were saying earlier. And in that time, I'm losing money on you.
Losing money.
Well, until you're productive.
But think about this, like, so on my end, I'm in the military, still about to retire. I'm a first sergeant. I'm not important to the organization. I am right now because I'm in the role. But there are so many guys who could do the same exact thing. And these employees who are give me, instead of like, what can I do for the company to make the company grow and I grow with them. When there's like, hey, I show up 9 to 5, you owe me. It's like, okay, well, it's cool. But I have a resume of like 10 other people that can do the same job. Somebody probably might be better than you too. So it's like, you're a liability from start to finish. If your mindset is like, you owe me from the beginning, I'm doing you a favor by showing up. It's like, not really. You don't. I don't need you. I got 10 other people that can take your job.
There is nothing that will get me to fire someone faster than entitlement.
Oh yeah, I hate it.
I can deal with an ego. I can work with an ego. I can deal with ignorance because I can educate you. I cannot deal with entitlement because you will believe that you are owed something or that you are somehow being underappreciated. And I just don't know how to get through to people, so I just prefer not to. And now here's the thing, devil's advocate. There will be those that say to me, well, Ariane, the corporate workforce is fundamentally different from previous years. And you'd be correct. Yeah. There are less pensions. There are less, incentives for you to possibly work at a place longer. And I do agree with that, but I would also say that, as I said earlier, the opportunities have always still been present.
Always.
So it's not as if you cannot do it. You still can. They're just more of us, so it seems fewer and farther between. But I would also say that there are 10 people lining up to get a job, and there is one person providing those jobs. Meaning, if you did a line of like, okay, who wants that salaried position, executing 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, right? you're going to have a line of 10 people. And if you have another line that's like, who wants to take the risks to start a business to hopefully generate enough revenue to hire one person, because anyone who has employees understands it is such a monumental task. The taxes, the structure of the company, the compensation package, a 1099 employee versus a W-2. If you have a sales role, how does the compensation work? This is not simple shit. You're not just like hiring someone willy-nilly. I get the benefit of this podcast. I know the people that I'm hiring, and I'm just a flat fee. Here's your hourly rate. Appreciate you coming. Personal check. Thank God. Because if I had to do all that stuff for this, I wouldn't do it.
Right.
But for my other businesses, I do have to go all this. I have to have an account. I have to have all this. So like just to have an employee. Mop said it one time with the Wolves Den. He's like, just to have an employee. Let's say you pay him $50,000 a year. It's going to cost me $80,000 a year to have that employee. Minimum.
Yes.
Just from taxes, having to do the accounting, all this other stuff, getting them up to speed, benefits, right? Because all these benefits that I want to be careful how I say this too, because it sounds like I'm kind of shilling for corporate America. I'm not saying that things are not harder. They are harder from previous generations in different ways. But I also stand by my comment of the opportunities are still there. And because we have people in our populace that are kind of, I want to be careful how I say this, but like they're kind of getting weaker mentally. Oh, yeah. The fortitude is weakening. I'm finding that there's an abundance of opportunity if you're just like a nominal go-getter.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's less competition, because more people are getting more apathetic and more black-pilled. Oh, yeah. So I'm just like, okay, cool. You don't want to do it? I'll do it.
Well, here's the other part, too, is like, okay, say it is corporate America. Company A sells to Company B. There's going to be jobs at Company B. There's other companies.
Talking about mergers and acquisitions?
Yeah, and also, like, there's always going to be a company starting up that's hiring people.
Yeah.
Like, the people are like, oh, it's like the competition. I don't see it. There's
an abundance, man.
Yeah, like I can go on Indeed right now. I I can look up sales reps for my particular industry. I can find in St. Louis alone probably 10 that all pay about the same. The bonuses are comparable, and they're open for a reason, because they need people to sign up and apply and fill those roles. It's the same across every industry. And like a lot of these young kids, I mean, I was one of the people too that got out of college like, I'm gonna make X amount of money. I'm sure you were too. Like they sell you this like, oh, you're gonna make so much money when you get out of college. This degree is worth so much money. And you get out in the real world, it's like, oh no, it's like your entry level, bud. I can't be making $100K.
I didn't know shit.
Yeah, when I'm 22 years old.
I had a degree, but I didn't know shit.
Yes, exactly. And so I think a lot of the mindset of like I'm owed this also comes from universities and college educated people like saying, hey, this is how much you're worth when you leave college. No, you're not.
It's tough to say that they're wrong though, because here's the other thing. It goes back to the thing we were talking about, like with ballooning industries. It's like if a kid graduates with $5,000 of student loan debt, perhaps the entitlement isn't as big because they're like, you know what, I can take the job that's $50,000 a year.
Right.
The problem is like I want to sound like I do have some sympathy and empathy, because I do believe that there was a generation that was lied to that said that this education process is the only means to enrichment of yourselves. And they were sold a false bill of goods. 100%. Now you have these kids that are like, when you're $100,000 in student loan debt, yeah, you can't take the $50,000 a year job. You can't. You cannot live.
It's true.
But that is not the responsibility of the employer to take that on. Like that is something you did. I had a person, I don't want to say her name. I hired her. It was originally as like a part-time gig. That's all I needed. 20 hours a week-ish. You know what I mean? Maybe sometimes less. And I told her that up front. I was like, hey, it'll be cash. You're not going to have to pay taxes on it. I would highly recommend you calculate that, because I will announce that as an expense. But up front, the taxes aren't paid, so just do that at your own will. And she was like, yeah, let's do it. Then she came back to me afterwards and was like, well, my car payment is this, and my insurance is this, and my rent is this, so I need to make at least this much money a week if I'm going to continue to work for you. I go, are you only working for me? She's like, well, I thought that was what it was going to be. I was like, I told you I needed 15 to 20 hours. There was a disconnect here, and this is what I was going to pay you. As far as I was concerned, I was as transparent as possible. Now you're taking on your own liabilities and burdens and putting that as if I now need to compensate you for your lifestyle. Yeah. I told you that I will pay you $45 an hour, which I thought was a pretty good fucking hourly rate.
That's a good hourly. That's
for the work that she was doing. Because I understand it. For 15 hours a week, I'm going to have to pay you a little bit of a premium. Totally do it. For you to come back and tell me that you need now more hours or more pay because of your lifestyle, that has nothing to do with me. I gave you my roles and responsibilities. I told you what I needed to get done. I told you what I was offering to give you on an hourly basis to get that done. How is this now a disconnect?
Go get another job.
By the way, not a millennial. She is or
Gen
your
X?
your age,
My age?
age,
Okay,
closer to your age
okay.
than I, which blew my mind because I was like, how is this not?
Yeah, I'm on the cusp of the Gen X millennial.
Yes. So
yeah.
it was such a weird concept to me, and that story kind of extrapolated is like, I think that I'm actually going to take a step back. I don't know if it's entitlement now that I say this out loud because of the nature of this conversation. I think it is part and parcel entitlement, but also need. I do
Yeah.
feel for these people. Like, yes, you have an abundant debt that is just crippling you.
I mean, but think about like what debt do you need to have the fanciest iPhone? Do you need to live in the nicest
I don't think-
apartment complex?
Here's where I'm going to push back on this argument. I know a lot of people that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah,
Dude, $100,000 when you're imagine you are 22 years old again, and you get that entry level position of $50K a year. Now that company, that's the price of that role. This is the revenue that you'll generate, and this is what we feel comfortable paying you. The problem is now to get to that, because the government got involved in education and because it ballooned out of crazy proportions, you have kids that are just graduating with more debt. So like, it's not their fault, and it is their fault.
Do you think
No one held a gun to their head?
Well,
They signed the loans. Go ahead.
I also want to say how predatory the system is, like the student loan
Well,
system.
for sure, that's a big
Agreed.
issue. That's a big
Agreed.
issue. Yeah, I will agree
Agreed.
with
If the
that.
government is backing anything, the interest rate on that should be zero.
And you
then
turn 18.
if there needs to be a profit motive, the profit motive should be the growth of the American labor source, and that the revenue that you will generate in taxation after these people become educated. The problem was, where did the majority of the money go? The majority did not go into STEM fields, because the STEM
went to liberal arts.
the STEM students are on margin getting scholarships, at least partial. So their education is being what's the word I'm looking for here? Sorry, it starts with an S.
Subsidized.
Subsidized.
Yes.
Thank you. Already by the universities, because they understand because the universities understand it too. Endowments and giving money back. The more lawyers I graduate, even though law is difficult, the more lawyers I graduate, I'll take the hit today, because then when you become, you pass the bar and you have your own law firm or whatever, I'll be like, hey, give it back to us on the back end. That's why Harvard is basically a fucking hedge fund at this point, and not an educator. So what I'm trying to say is the business mind has always been there, but it was the government that came in that offered a lot of these social science programs, an abundance of funding, which then generated a higher cost of education for everybody else, including the STEM fields.
Well, and then you can't even.
Why does a finance degree and an education degree cost the same amount of money? That doesn't even fucking make sense. Because an educator is going to graduate and make $40,000 a year, and I graduated and made $80,000 a year. I made double, yet our degree, our credit hours were still cost the same.
Yes, it's
it doesn't
crazy.
make sense.
It's
Education
crazy.
is broken. I've said this time and time again. It's broken on many fronts. It's broken at the funding level, it's broken at the educator level, and it's broken at the credential level.
What do you think about too? I mean, like.
Forgive me, I kind of want to
No, I love it. Like, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I think the other part too is like, man, who thought it would be a good idea that you couldn't default on these loans? You can't file bankruptcy.
Bro, if you're
this is
making
an
a
internal
loan
debt.
that I can't legally file bankruptcy on, the interest rate better be zero, or
Yeah.
you cannot offer that to 18-year-olds. Go fuck yourself.
That's so.
I'm sorry.
It's
Go
so
fuck
insane.
yourself.
It's so insane that they
There are people with their
allowed that.
social security checks are getting docked for student loans before they get it.
That's
That is
so-
such that is a failure
That's a slap
of
in
our
the face.
society.
Yeah, slap
so,
in the face.
So to go back to the conversation about employment, entitlement, and all this, I still stand by my statement of I do believe that the next generations are less equipped mentally for the hurdles of the labor market, not necessarily corporate America, but you see less entrepreneurs, you see less risk taking individuals. So then what happens? Wealth and prosperity accumulates to the fewer and fewer
Yes.
people.
Yep. The 1%ers
Yes.
get more 1%y. Yep.
Patrick Bet-David had a quote that I absolutely agree with. He said, if you take all the money in the world and you were to take all the dollars in the world and then you gave it to everybody equally, the same people that were billionaires will be billionaires within 5 years. And I agree with that 100%. I do.
It's the drive. It's the.
It's
it has
all of it.
It has really doesn't have anything to do with necessarily the funding. I mean, some people are trust fund babies or have
Yeah,
hedge funds and all that stuff from their families and God bless them. Like, hey, I plan on doing that with my kids.
I want to do that with my daughter.
like it's great, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's
I'm busting my ass to do
yes,
that.
I think it's a great thing that we should afford our children, but you can't hold it against them. Number one, number two, like Elon Musk. You think somebody's got the same drive as that guy? No, that guy's a
You and I
psychopath.
are peons.
Yes. He's not only is he smart, I mean, he's a genius, but also that man has a work ethic unlike anybody else.
Yeah.
You know, like that's just how he is, and that's why he's where he is. And the other thing too, people don't really. This is what I was going to talk about, his generation. A lot of people don't know what it takes to make that type of money. They don't understand the drawbacks of not having any sort of life outside of work, not being able to be at family functions. For like myself, I travel. I think I was telling you before. Like I got this last week was the first week, one of 6 weeks in an entire year where I didn't travel for work. I travel all the time. Like, but I make really good money.
There's a price to be paid.
Yeah, there's a price to be paid. So a lot of people want the money, but don't want to pay the piper when it's time to pay the piper. And they think, this manager is making X amount of dollars, or this VP or this CEO. You don't see what's going on the back end, buddy. Like, you're not working 100 hours a week. You're not working 80 hours a week, right? You're not doing that. You want to work your 40 hours and think you want 80-hour a week pay. It doesn't work like that. So I was going to tell you is like his generation. A lot of people say, hard work doesn't get you anything. I say bullshit. Hard work gets you everything. The work, they talk about like the immigrant mindset, right? The work ethic of immigrants.
I live it.
So like I'm a second generation American, right? My third generation. My mom was first generation and my dad was too. And
So you were born here.
I was born here. My grandparents were born in Italy and Greece and Germany. And so like we still have that immigrant mindset. It's like, you can do whatever you want in this country. That's the great thing about America. And I hate hearing when people tell my daughter, for instance, who's 14, or my younger daughter who's 10, it's like, hard work only gets you so far. Bullshit. You like connections are great, but I take my personal choices of going with this new company, and my hard work got me to where I am. It was all my work ethic.
What would you say if I told you that they're not mutually exclusive?
It's
I
true.
think networking is hard work too. It's
sure.
hard to have a strong network. You need to be a value add yourself.
Yes.
And that's difficult. So it's like when people say like, he knew the right people. Yeah. And that's fucking hard. Try getting to a seat at the table at some of these places. I'll make a comment actually. Do you know why I wear the suits? Do you know why I buy Rolexes and I buy a Mercedes? You want to know what it is more than anything? Because I'm fucking 32 years old. And if I try to talk to older men that are much more affluent, much more wealthy than I am, I have to get them to at least believe that I know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm a first generation immigrant. I grew up poor as fuck. I could drive a Honda. I don't care about any of this shit. I really don't care about any of this shit. The problem is perception is reality. So I have to work really fucking hard at my network, and it costs me a lot of fucking money. So when people tell me like, you only got this opportunity because you knew that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I worked hard to get there.
But because I knew that guy and I showed him my value and my intellect and my abilities, that's why he gave me that. Because I'm sure he knows other people that he could have called, but he decided to call me.
Yes.
And you know what? I will spend any amount of money to have the opportunities that I have afforded to myself.
And like you said, it is hard to get in those circles.
Sorry, that was kind of like, I'm not saying that to like name drop, but what I'm trying to do is like set a tone, because there's a lot of people often talk about prejudice and stuff like that. Well, guess what one prejudice is? Age. Youth. I'm young. It is perceived that I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. And you know what? For a lot of things, they're correct. I am less experienced. I'm all these things. So I have to amplify certain characteristics of myself, even if that is wealth. If I have to amplify my wealth, I will. Right. Until it is important, until it's not important.
Goes back to sales. You're always selling yourself to somebody or something, right?
Always.
So I agree with that. It is hard to get in certain circles, and if you don't bring value to the people in that circle, you're not going to be invited back. No. And so, I agree. You're right. Networking.
I think network
and
is hard work as well.
Yes, they are not mutually exclusive. They can be one and the same. I think the messaging of, because I'm sure you've heard it before, is like, hard work doesn't mean anything nowadays. Like, that's
because they don't work hard.
Exactly. They don't know what hard work is. And so,
well, then let me ask you this.
Yeah.
It's a good question. What is to you hard work? Does that mean working with your hands and building something? Does that mean working long hours? Like I worked 60 hours this week, but how productive was I? So like to me, my question to you is, what do you consider hard work? That individual is hard working. What does that mean?
Man.
What does that look like to you?
And so I'm in a couple different industries, in the jiu-jitsu world, military.
Doesn't matter.
That's a really good question. I think it's the hard work is your willingness to sacrifice your comforts for the benefit of your corporation or your lateral movement or your business if you privately own it. You have to be willing to say, hey, I can't go out to dinner tonight because I have this going on. Or, yeah, working with your hands. Yes, like hard work means that you are like my father, he does construction. He takes pride in his work, right? He's meticulous with what he does, works with his hands, and he works hard. And I think that in that world, in the trades, it's making sure you do the job right, right? Because you have a definitive product at the end, right? Like for us, like sales, finance, like you see the money go up, but you don't really see the product, right? He sees the product at the end. He sees like, okay, hey, this is the product that I have. It needs to be perfect. Is my customer happy? Is this what they wanted? He worked hard to make that happen. In sales, for me, it's like, I can see the numbers growing, right? Hard work, I'm willing to sacrifice a lot. And you can ask my wife, like, she hates that I travel as much as I do, and I am on the phone constantly. But that's the name of the game. And so I'm willing to work hard to do that. In the jiu-jitsu world, am I willing to put in, or the fight world, am I willing to put in the extra rounds? Am I willing to do the road work, the cardio, the strength and conditioning, watching tape, doing anything like that? In the jiu-jitsu business world, am I willing to show up early, prepare my classes, like write a schedule out? This is what I want to teach, have like a month out. This is my program I want to teach. Or if I've seen a particular, set of actions that my students keep doing wrong, am I willing to dig into it, find some, good answers for it, and then after class sit there and talk with them about their problems and the issues with their jiu-jitsu, and like answer questions that I'm not getting paid for. It's like essentially doing a private lesson that I'm not getting paid for because I care about my students. I'm willing to stay after longer hours and make it happen. Or, for instance, like my business partner was out of town this week. Do I want to teach kids class? No, but I own the damn business, so I need to be there and make it happen. So, that's what, to me, hard work is be willing to go above your counterparts or anybody else in your field to do more than they will because you are determined to be successful as a person. That's my idea of hard work.
I like that. For me personally, I try to equate things to like a mathematical equation because then it allows me like a uniform measurement for everybody. So I'll give you an example. Luck, for instance, is where opportunity is multiplied by preparation.
Yep.
I can have all the opportunities afforded to me, but if I'm not learned in anything, if I offer no value, I'm not going to get any sort of up in my life. You know what I mean? And then I'll say like, oh, I'm unlucky. No, you were unprepared for the opportunities afforded to you. And likewise, like you could be as prepared as possible. You could be like the smartest guy in India who doesn't get the H-1B, let's say. Right. So like you might have all the preparation, but if you don't have any of the opportunities, you're also shit out of luck. So you need both those variables. I would say that hard work is also a mathematical equation, and it is passion multiplied by quality divided by time. So if I have the passion to do quality work, the only variable is how long did it take me. You could build the greatest house ever, and you might work with your hands, but if it took you 10 years to do it, and someone else can do the exact same quality work in a year, well, they're hardworking.
Yeah, I like that equation. I'm going to steal that
Passion
from you.
multiplied by quality divided by time.
I'm going to steal that from you.
Because that was where I was going to get to you, is like sometimes people correlate, I work hard because I work 60-hour weeks. I got newsflash for you, man. If you have a 40, I'll stand by this quote. If you have a 40-hour-a-week job and you work 40 hours a week, you suck at your job.
Yeah, you're not working hard enough. Yeah.
Because either you could be more efficient and work 20 hours a week,
yep,
or you could be applying yourself more and you should be working 55 hours a week.
Yeah.
I hate to say it like that, but a 40-hour week, I don't know a single wealthy person that works 40 hours a week. They either work 10 because they worked 70 for 20 years, or they're working 70 right now because they're building that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's and now too with the technology, you have like ChatGPT. God, you guys should be. They should be.
We are the generation that is poised for such economic advancements that would dwarf the Industrial Revolution.
Yes.
And when I tell you that the opportunities that are afforded to us are so astronomically high, simultaneously there are so many people who are mentally not prepared to take advantage of those opportunities. I hate to say it this way because it's going to sound super douchey. I love it. Thank you. I will gladly take that wealth that you're leaving on the table.
Amen. That's how I feel too. It's like, man, like somebody's got to have it. It might as well be me.
Yeah.
If you don't want it, I'll take it from you.
Yeah.
If you don't want to work hard, I'll work harder for it. So yeah.
So that's how I try. That's the lens in which I navigate life, because then I try to think very logically. Because I as an individual am an emotional character. I do have a lot of passion in everything that I do because I want everything. It doesn't have to be the best, but I want it to be of high quality.
The Mediterranean in you, bro.
Yeah, the podcast, whatever it is that I'm fucking doing, it doesn't have to be the best. I don't have to be Joe Rogan, but I also don't want to be some nobody. You know what I mean?
Just talking to YouTube,
the ether,
one person. Yeah.
So it's just, passion multiplied by quality
I like
divided by
that. I
time.
like that a
That's
lot.
how I look at
Yeah, I
it.
like that a lot actually.
If you don't mind, I would like to take a small step back
Yeah.
because you talked. There are a multitude of things that have happened in my life to lead me to the person that I am today to have this kind of conversation with you. I like to think that we see eye to eye on a lot of macro things. Perhaps in the micro we would differ, but at least from the conversation I've had with you so far, we're pretty lock in step. But you've had a different life than I have because I didn't necessarily serve in the military.
Right.
Can you if you don't mind, I would like to discuss your military background, how it was that you got into it. Was it a calling that you felt, or did you feel like what we were saying earlier, where like people that thought they were dumb were going into the military because they're like, well, I can't go to college.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I have a lot of friends in the military, like I said off the record, from the Army to Air Force and Navy SEALs, and I've heard like everything under the rainbow. The guy that went into the Army because he had no other options, to the Navy SEAL who was like, I will defend this country with my dying breath, which
Yeah.
God bless. There's no wrong reason to serve. Like if you're serving, you're serving.
Yeah, you're serving
You
your
know what I
country.
mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But it is interesting to see the delta between one and the other. So for you, if we can start the conversation with this question, why was it that you went into military service? What was that calling?
So, my senior year in high school, I was driving to school. The first plane hit the trade towers.
Talking about September
Yep.
11th.
And then when I got into my first class, the second one hit. And the first one we thought was an accident. When the second one hit, we knew it was an act of war. And then we were watching it on TV. And I thought to myself, like, this country has provided my family so much. Like, somebody's got to do something about this.
God bless.
If not me, then who? That's what I told myself. And so I found an Army recruiter. I wanted to, like, it was around the same time Black Hawk Down came out, and I wanted to be an Army Ranger. And I'm
gonna move this because I know it's affecting you.
no, it's all good. Like I talk
Sorry.
with my hands.
No, I just didn't
Italian in
want
me.
to.
So I signed up. I was like, I'm gonna go join the Army, be a Ranger. I want to be infantry. I want to go kill some people because like they
They fucked us.
fucked,
I'm
yeah,
gonna fuck
I'm
them.
gonna go. I'm going to war. Like this is what I thought. And so before that, I'll take a step back. Grew up very poor South City, like South City Hoosier, born and raised. Went to when my parents got divorced, my mom remarried and they moved out to Eureka. So I went to Eureka High School my sophomore through senior year, but poor kid. And had a few soccer scholarships lined up to go play college soccer. I played for
I didn't even know you played soccer.
Yeah, I haven't played since I was 18. But
Now I strangle people.
yeah, now yeah, I do a real sport. No, I played for Anheuser-Busch Soccer Club here. I played varsity soccer, at Eureka, 3-time starter, sophomore to senior year, and had a couple of scholarships lined up. And then 9/11 hit, and found an Army recruiter, signed up. Like I think he pushed me out a couple of weeks, but I signed up like 2 weeks later for infantry. Yeah, that's all she wrote. I was finished high school. Couple months later, like a month or two later, I shipped off to Fort Benning, Georgia, and a year after I got out of basic, went to and fought in the war in Iraq. So yeah.
Do you mind if I don't want you to get, I don't necessarily need like details or anything like that. And the line of questioning that I have for you, if you want to keep it a high level, I guess what I'm trying to say is disclose only what you feel
Yeah, for
comfortable.
sure,
I'm
for
not trying to probe in any which way. Was it what you thought it would be, service?
I had done a lot of reading. This was before the internet was super popular. I'm an old geezer, but they gave me some materials to read, and I was doing my research and reading, and like I went there, and it was more fun than I thought it would be.
Really?
Oh yeah, I had a blast at basic training. Like I met some really cool people. I was getting 3 square meals a day for the first time in my life. Like I was eating not great food and not a lot. It was, I was working more than the calorie intake was, but I was eating. I didn't have to worry about money because I was getting paid. And I thought of it this way. It's like, I get paid to exercise and go shoot guns and blow shit up. Like,
Sign me up.
that is the best thing in the world. I loved it. And I got to go live in Germany for 2 years, so I did a year in Germany year and some change in Germany, went to Iraq, came back to Germany for a little bit. So I got to see, I've never flown on an airplane before I joined the Army. Never left the country until I joined the Army. And I got to do all that stuff. And so I loved, like, to your original question, I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun when I joined. I met some amazing people. Now, was the war what I thought it would be? It's kind of hard to tell. It's definitely different from Hollywood. Everybody has these ideas what combat looks like based off Hollywood movies, but it's different. The first couple months you're kind of scared because you don't know what to expect. Every firefight you're in, you're kind of like you do your job, but you're getting that trial by fire. The middle 6 months is like when you're at your peak. Like that's when you're firing all cylinders. You know your job. Me and my guys, like I was a team leader over there, so I had 3 other guys I was responsible for. And mind you, I was leading grown men. I was 19 and 20 over there.
Jesus.
Yeah, so I was a young kid, and like you go into combat, and it's definitely different than what they portray on television. And the war was different. So yeah, and I don't mind talking about it. And if you got questions on it,
I do. If you don't mind me asking,
yeah, for sure.
I have a lot of people that they will talk about it as if it was sold to them as a false bill of goods, in the sense like we're going to go over there and we're going to fight bad guys and we're going to put them away and we're going to get them back for what they did for us. And then that was theory, but the application was a lot of interaction with civilians, humanitarian aid, not necessarily knowing who is a combatant is and who's a friendly, and the fog of war was thick, let's say that. And that some of them, it kind of left scars mentally forever. Now, I'm not trying to get into like the whole, PTSD or anything like that, because I'm not a credentialed individual to talk about that, nor am I a clinician in any sort of respect. But I guess my question for you would be, did you feel like your time there was served in the interest of America? Or how do you look back on your efforts in the war?
So when I was there, so this is a multifaceted question.
Yes,
so,
forgive me.
So broad view now, Iraq, mistake. And I'll say that, I've lost a lot of friends from Iraq, friends that we fought in the war together in Iraq. As an infantryman, obviously we're the frontline guys kicking open doors and all that stuff. And so
There's a lot of risk.
Yeah, looking back now, Iraq probably was a blunder. And it took me until probably even just recently, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, where I kind of came to that realization where it's like, wow, we shouldn't have been there. And until that point, though, I vehemently defended it. I'm like, yeah, we did right by America. We went there and we killed bad guys. And I was there in 2004, right after the initial invasion. Fallujah was happening. I was in Samara. We had major combat. We were still seeing real combat. And I didn't do humanitarian stuff. We just straight up did missions and, did our job. And, so to give you a little kind of idea of my platoon, we had 42 guys in my platoon. We ended with 27 Purple Hearts. So we saw, including myself, I have a Purple Heart. One of my really good friends, Crawford, he has 2 Purple Hearts from the same year. Converse, a buddy of mine, he has 2 Purple Hearts.
For those that are not necessarily learned with military and the accomplishments, what is a Purple Heart and how do you acquire one?
So a Purple Heart means you were wounded or killed in combat. And so
for your platoon of 42 to have 27
yes,
means
we saw some major shit.
And prices were paid.
Yes. So we...
Forgive me, I just want for
someone
that
might not know. So for my non-military people, that's what that is. And so, we were in major engagements, so we weren't on the humanitarian end. Now, some of my soldiers that, because I'm still currently serving in the National Guard, I'm a first sergeant, I'm about to retire. Some of the later GWAT guys, or Global War on Terror, GWAT, they had those issues of humanitarian stuff, and it was a struggle for them, right? The rules of engagement were different. They went there to go kill bad guys, which rightfully so they should have. Like, that's what we should have been doing. If we're at war, we should be killing bad guys. not rebuilding countries. I'm sorry, like that worked in World War II. It hasn't worked ever since,
I agree.
and it didn't work before either. Sorry, just doesn't work that way.
It also worked after the conflict was over.
Yes,
Not during.
not during. They had surrendered. They had the populace knew they were done, and they didn't want to fight us.
There were
anymore.
no more combatives, or
Yes.
at the very least, not ones with guns.
Yes, and so Iraq was unusual because I was there during their first election in '04. I was there at the in '05 when the Civil War started really kicking off. So we would see like just mass graves of beheaded people. It's just all kinds of crazy stuff. So when up until about, like I said, 3 or 4 years ago, I vehemently defended like we should have been there. Now I ask myself, did we create more problems than we did? And I think we did, because Saddam, is as shitty of a person as he was, he kept that region in check. Look what happened afterwards, right? ISIS, you got Yemen acting up, the conflict with Israel, and how I don't want to get political,
No,
but Israel,
but there was
Palestine.
destabilization,
Yes.
as is to be expected when the when power is eliminated, a vacuum occurs and destabilization will inevitably
Yes.
follow.
And a lot of that was too,
Regime change is not
It's
as
not always
easy
great.
as we thought it was.
yeah, look what happened in Libya. Like Gaddafi got out, and there's like the Wild West. There's a slave
Also-
trade going on there. It's
Also, for those that don't
insane.
know, Gaddafi denuclearized on the input of America at our strong recommendation, and then we overthrew
We
him
overthrew
within
him.
a year.
Yep. It
So
was-
that, what does that say to everybody else?
don't trust Americans.
Don't get rid of your nukes.
Yes. Look at Ukraine. Ukraine got rid of the
Look at
nukes.
Russia.
Yeah,
Russia
because
gets away
in
with
what,
whatever they
90,
get away- yeah.
92 was like, hey, we'll protect you, and then Russia invades. Oh, we're not going to get involved. It's crazy. So
Forgive me.
yeah, but Iraq was, and Iraq also kept
Can
Iran
I ask
in
you a
check.
question
Yeah.
though? Like you're saying that up until 3 or 4 years ago,
Yeah.
what was this moment, or what information or what realization did you come to that you're like, okay, now the way I think about this has shifted? Like, what was that?
I think it's because I was getting closer towards retirement from the Army, and I was thinking about like just reflecting on my time in the military, the things I've done. And in the military, I've done everything as an infantryman. I was rifleman, team leader, squad leader, platoon sergeant of an infantry platoon. I went to the scout snipers. I did that for 8 years. Now I'm a first sergeant, so I've done everything besides a sergeant major. So every role you can have as an infantryman, I've pretty much done. And just reflecting back on my career, thinking about the war, and also a lot of my friends, like, well, not a lot. I've had quite a few friends though either commit suicide, right, or reflecting on their past. You just ask yourself, like, hey, was my friend's life worth that fight? And then you think about it, it's like, man, why the hell were we there in the first place? And then a friend of mine at the gym, he also is an Iraqi, Afghani war vet, and he an infantryman. We talk a lot, and just getting to be able to talk with somebody about it, because I didn't really have that for years. There aren't, for whatever reason, there weren't a whole lot of GWAT guys that I was able to kind of commiserate with until my friend Dan and I started hanging out, and I was able to we were able to bounce our thoughts off of each other, and he and I kind of think the same thing. Now Afghanistan, a little different story. The Taliban were not necessarily in cahoots with Al Qaeda, but they had promised them protection because that's the Pashtun way of life. Is like when they were a guest, all kinds of different stuff. Afghanistan a little different because that's where kind of it originated. They were there. We should have went there. But Iraq, why? That's my take on why.
One of the arguments that I've heard when discussing this is that the Middle East in general is just a very complicated microcosm
It is.
of very different, similar people, right?
Yes.
And arguments similar to Christianity, how we have denominations, there are arguments in which Islam is to be portrayed and practiced. And that was also some of the things that caused a little bit of the division, or some of the unknowns, some of the variables that would make military actions very difficult.
Oh yeah.
You say now that perhaps it wasn't necessarily worth the cost of the friends that you have made, and by the way, my own personal opinion as someone who did not serve is that hindsight is 20/20.
It is.
And sometimes it shows a lot about an individual who can look at their past and say, given new information, given today's arena, how is that to be portrayed, right? Like slavery at the time was a common practice. Now we, as a society, acknowledge its wrongfulness.
Right.
I think that's growth personified. So like for you to say, up until a certain point and then I changed. Let me ask you a very honest question as an individual who hasn't served. What type of conflict now with what you know now would constitute U.S. military getting involved? So we're obviously involved in a lot of soft power, but up until recently when we when we bombed Iran's nuclear facilities, as it was, to the best of my knowledge, that is what has happened. And we are growing our assistance in many parts of the world, either with the Middle East with Israel, in the Eurasian Peninsula, off the coast of Russia, not the coast, but off the border of Russia with Ukraine. As someone who's served, who's a little bit more learned on these things, are any of these conflicts or interventions from America justified? This is your opinion, however you see it.
Yeah.
And if they are, why? If they're not, why? And then what would justify?
So a full-on conflict, I have become more, not, I wouldn't say an isolationist, but, as a businessman, war's bad for business. I don't care what anybody says. It's not good, right? And we lose people that we don't need to lose. We get into conflicts with other countries that we don't need to really necessarily be in conflict with. Like Russia, Ukraine, that's a Russia-Ukraine problem, in my opinion, not a United States-NATO problem, because Ukraine wasn't in NATO. There's no obligation for us to be there. And a lot of the GWAT vets feel the same way. It's like, why? Same thing with Iran. It's like, why? Like we're allowed to have nukes, but they're not. And I'm not apologizing for them. I'm just saying, like, I'm taking more of a stance of, if there's not a direct threat on the United States, we should not be going to war with them. That's my personal opinion. Now, the rational person in me is like, okay, well, we still need to project power. Geopolitics is a very real thing. If we're not doing it, China or Russia or somebody else is. But what level of involvement do we want to have? And again, like you got the special operations community, you got soft community that's their specialty. Like they go in and they do that stuff. So, in a kind of a naive mindset, I would prefer where we were isolationists. We're like, hey, we're going to trade. We're going to secure our trade routes with our Navy because that's how we're going to project our power. If you want us to have a base in your country, we can, to support you through NATO or whatever sort of treaty we have. But, like, if you're picking fights with people, that's on you. Like, we don't need to be getting involved. But if you pick a fight with us, we'll fight back. That's kind of my stance.
Do you mind if I portray my thought on it?
Yeah, for sure.
And you could tell me what you agree or disagree with. I think the way I tackle business is I don't anticipate loyalty. I don't want someone. I don't want to do business on the contingency that this is my friend and they're going to do right by me. The way I do business is I want to produce something or solve a problem better than anybody else can, and I want you to. One of the 7 deadly sins that I think the least amount of is greed, because greed in moderation can do many things. I pull at my partner's greed to get them to want to do business with me. Do business with me because I'm going to offer you a reduced cost, or it's good business to do. I don't need your loyalty. I need your greed. I need your intentions to be pure for maximum profitability, because I can build on that. I can build on the consistency of you being greedy. I think that what we have done as a nation we have stripped away conflict resolution for conflict. And that we are now becoming, I want to be careful how I say this, because I don't want to sound like, I love America. This is the only place I want to live. I love this country. It's afforded me every luxury I've ever had. My criticisms are from a good place as I perceive them, so that this union can last the test of time. So this is what I want to preface it with. You cannot go to the rest of the world and bully them. You cannot.
I'll agree with that. Yeah.
And I think that we have tried to wag our finger at every other nation who hasn't done what we wanted them to do, instead of just accepting that different people will think differently, and that you don't need everybody to be your friend. You just need them to be on your side through greed. So, like, we subsidize oil. We do all these other things. We have soft power in all these other places. I'm okay with all of that. I'm not okay with, you don't agree with us, so we're going to send people with guns over to you to do what? Kill them?
Yeah, for what? Yeah.
And then for what? We are not an immediate threat. there's also been a lot of growing tension with our government and its populace, with transparency of information, with how we have given up powers ever since the Patriot Act,
Yeah.
and that have not been receded. There has been a growing inflation of government power, federal government power in our country. And I just don't agree with any of these directions. I don't think they're conducive to a free and prosperous people. And if you truly believe in your populace, and I do have inalienable rights gifted to me by God, you cannot intercede in them whenever it does not suit you. You
Agreed.
cannot tell me I have to stay at home because I have God-given rights that are above you, the federal government. And if you want to use my tax dollars to bomb brown people halfway across the world, then I do have the right to criticize our education and our infrastructure
Yeah.
and all these other things in my
Spend money on
life that I'm
something here.
feeling.
Yeah, spend
Exactly.
money on us, make us more prosperous.
I understand the need for soft power because I do agree with I like the idea of isolation. Unfortunately, in a robust, growing economical world,
Very hard to do.
where there are less and less third world countries, now they're becoming second world countries and first world countries. Economics plays a role in everything, and you are correct that if we don't do it, our competitors will. But do our competitors need to be adversaries?
No.
Do our adversaries need, they can be adversaries, but does that adversarial connection have to be military? Can it be competitive? Can it be, what we kind of build capitalism on? I understand that economics is just another form of power, and power is influence. But I believe, this is what I believe in my heart, that we truly have no competition because our form of government supersedes everybody else and we are the best. We win the mile run because we are in the best shape to run that race. And Russia and China and India and Israel and all these other people might have bar graphs where they're kind of up and down, but over the course of time, America will still be number one because we have created the infrastructure to allow it. I say this to everybody. Oh yeah, China's growing and this and that. Okay, well, what happens when Xi Jinping dies,
Yeah.
or when Putin dies,
Or when
And
we find out they're fluffing their numbers and their
For
population
sure.
and their
For sure.
dollar or their
Yes.
whatever it is.
the same metrics by which we discuss for ourselves, winners and losers, applies to them as well. China has its own problems. Russia has its own problems. All these countries have their own problems, and I feel like we as a world. This is gonna make me sound like such a fucking hippie, but we are so concentrated on conflict and imposing our influence that we're not necessarily taking care of people. And my fear for this is that if a populace of individuals feel like they are being neglected, they will
The revolt.
revolt.
Yeah, it's
It's
happened.
happened before.
Yeah, look at Rome.
You're a nation of
Yeah,
revolutionaries.
now look at Rome
God
too.
bless.
I mean, like how many times has Rome the plebes have tried to overthrow the Senate and revolted? And no, I agree with you. I think
I think there are very few instances in which we need to get militarily involved.
that should be the last option. There should be other options prior to.
I also think that we've overused our financial instruments.
Oh yeah,
I think
for sure.
sanctioning has become so rampant that it doesn't mean
Well,
anything
and,
anymore.
yeah, they just go through a different country.
Yeah.
Russia's getting their electronics from washers and dryers that they're buying in Germany or
You
something.
don't even have to do that.
You know,
They're
it's
just
so
going
crazy.
to get a cargo.
Yeah.
It's so insane to me how anyone thinks any of these trade embargoes, anything like this works. That's why NVIDIA has to sit there and create different classifications of chips that still get smuggled into China.
Yep.
At the end of the day, I hate to say it this way, but either you believe in capitalism or you don't. And I believe in capitalism.
Yeah.
I believe that we have the best and brightest here. And if we don't, then let's provide a society that attracts the best and brightest. This is why I vehemently disagree with socialism, because if you allow for a society that does not foster and create the extremely wealthy, do not get mad when the extremely wealthy aren't here.
Well, that's why I say socialism is just for lazy people.
Yes.
People who don't want to try hard, like, oh, well, you owe me this, or like, oh, well, the government should give me this. Why? Go and work it, dude. Go work. You're lazy. And socialism is just for people who can't. Like, there's doers and there's people who can't.
I'll go a
do.
step further. Socialists are cowards.
Oh, for
Because
sure.
what they want is they want people with guns to enforce their will because they're too cowardly to do it
Do
themselves.
themselves, yeah.
If you want mine, be a man, take
Take it. Yeah. If not, then fuck
Then,
off.
then shut the
Yeah.
fuck up.
Yeah. Leave me alone.
So yeah, I'm sorry. I'll say that. If you're a communist or a socialist, you're a coward.
I agree. Yeah. They're lazy. Just
Because you have all the things that are afforded to you. If you're a loser in any other country other than America, I feel for you. There are economic boundaries, hurdles, perhaps government incentives that are counterintuitive to your needs and wants. But if you're a loser in America, that's on you.
It's all 100% on you.
So nothing's stopping you from not being a loser other than yourself. I have yet to hear an argument to differ or to get me to not believe this.
Oh, agreed. 100%.
So I'm sorry. I want to go back to the military occupation, and because I feel like we are in a place as America and the world where there is an abundance of conflict, and I don't see how this is resolved with us going back to how things were. I hate to say it that way.
Yeah. Man, so with the conflict resolution and the conflict around the world, I think it's going to just happen. I think that, I mean, honestly, I don't know. I'm
It's tough.
the geopolitical.
I don't have the answers.
realm,
I don't
yeah.
have the answers.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna act like, oh, we need to do this out of the other. All I'm saying is I'm observing in real time in my lifetime. Life for me as an American and my friends has only ever gotten harder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I know that there is still opportunity and there's still abundance and you can still pick yourself up 100%. We still have that freedom. But for the general person, for the middle class that's eroding, life is only getting harder.
It is.
And that's all I've experienced for 25 years.
A lot of it is, I mean, the inflation is ridiculous. But to the military point, I'll say this is like, I've been watching the war in Ukraine, like, because that's my job in the National Guard is fighting infantry, you know, and I'll tell you right now, I would not want to fight in that war.
No.
The drones and it's a brutal. We don't even know what the real numbers are, the death toll. It's crazy. I mean, I've heard it's in the hundreds of thousands.
Well, Ukraine would want to undersell it.
Yes.
And Russia would want to oversell it.
And vice versa.
For
Russia.
both
Yep,
reasons. Yep.
Yep. And Russia's going to be like, oh, we only lost 4,000 people. Like, bro, I've been watching. I watch these drone attacks. You're losing a lot more people than that.
Not just that, but the overuse of artillery shells.
Yeah, it's back to World War One.
Going back to trench warfare.
Trench warfare
it's
is
a
nasty.
bloody. I genuinely feel, I'm not like a sensitive guy. I'm really not. But when I think to myself, what will happen after this? Like, okay, just for argument's sake, let's say that the peace deal is negotiated tomorrow. I hate to say it this way, man, what is left? What are you gonna do? Like, how many people have died?
Yeah.
How many people have fled? What is left of that country at this point?
Well,
Truly.
I mean, and then that type of fighting is.
It'll scar them
brutal
forever.
Yeah,
It'll scar them forever.
Brutal.
Even if you weren't involved, the women, the children, that's all they're gonna know for the rest of their life.
That type of, like, you know, you talk about, like, from my generation, the guys who were, you know, in the time I was in Iraq, they saw some real brutal fighting. Fallujah, for instance, was nasty, and I mean, it sticks with you. You know, it's like I can only imagine the trench warfare is just brutal, and you've lost a lot of. You're talking about business. You lost a lot of resources with men, right? Your men are.
The most important capital is human capital.
Yes, it is. And ages 18 to 50 are fighting that war, and you're losing a lot of men doing that. And, you know, obviously they're importing a lot of foreign fighters, which kind of helps supplement their ranks, and technology also helps supplement some of the fighting. But still, like, you're losing a valuable asset. And then you go back, okay, Russia gets the little chunk of Ukraine because they're not giving up the Crimea. They're going to keep that. That's what they want.
Of course. They're going to keep everything that they've earned.
Yeah, exactly. Ukraine's
the Donbass.
like, they're going to have to be like, okay, well, we're stuck with what we got. Yeah, literally, what do you have left? You have to rebuild infrastructure, which costs millions and billions of dollars. You got to rebuild your export, which now has to go through the Crimea, which goes through Russia because that's where the ports are at. And they're, you know, I don't know if you know this or not, Ukraine's like the number one exporter of fertilizer.
Yeah.
So you got to go pay taxes to Russia anyway. You're fighting over the damn port's already gone. Might as well just, all right, whatever. Like, it's done, over with.
This is what I was trying to allude to earlier. It was like, you know, there is a logistical reality to conflict. And we might be the economic powerhouse of the world. And I do believe that. However, at the end of the day, and this is where I get to socialists of like, when you say, you know, you're going to do this. If I say no, well, then you're going to have to take people with guns and make me.
Yep.
So when you say that you want to empower the government, you're basically saying that you want to empower a force that can dictate to me with guns.
Well, and I throw it back in the socialist face. Well, okay, what if the government wants to do the exact opposite of what you're telling me to do?
What you want to do.
Now they have all the guns, and they're going to take what they want from you.
I don't like the precedent that we have set in the last 8 years. By the way, both Trump and Biden. I don't like this tit for tat.
Lawfare.
I don't like this escalation of the executive branch's authority based on the constituents and what they want today.
Yeah.
I believe that the wisdom of your founding fathers of checks and balances should stand the test of time, and that this is directly correlated to a weak and lazy Congress who does not want to execute their legislative authorities and instead kick the can down the road to the executive branch.
Some bureaucrats in an ATF or the DEA or
all these three-letter agencies are
EPA.
Unelected officials.
Just creating rules.
Yes.
The EPA, the man, there was one rule, some crazy stuff with farmland. I'm like, bro, you're not even elected.
Yeah. What's crazy to me is like you will give the president more power and then you'll call them a fascist.
Yeah.
Like,
stop giving
you can't
power.
have it both ways,
Yeah.
man. You
Yeah.
can't be like, no, we don't want to create the laws, or we don't want to change the laws, or we don't want to put a vote to a controversial piece of legislation. So we're just going to kick the can down the road to the executive branch. And then when the executive branch does an executive order or, emphasizes this, that, or the other, tariffs is a prime example. Everyone is like either for or against them. What we should genuinely have the question of saying is, just like so the president is the commander in chief, meaning he can mobilize military personnel on a drop of a dime because he has that authority. However, the act of declaring war stands with Congress.
Yes.
So we have a similar set of procedures for tariffs. If there is a genuine emergency, we can, at any point, the president has the authority to say, we're going to tariff you 40%, let's just say. Then Congress at a later time has the ability to convene and say, is this what we want to do? Right. They still haven't. So you can bitch and complain about everything he's doing, but at the end of the day, you have the authority to get in there if you wanted to, but you guys choose not to. This is my thing of like the hypocrisy and the annoyance of like our politics today is it's not even about if you're right or left. I'm not even talking about red or blue. What I'm talking about is there is a system of government that has been placed that is being kind of obfuscated because people don't want to handle their responsibilities, which is then a genuine question. If I accept a position at a company where I have to manage people, and then I don't feel like managing people, I'll get fired.
Yep.
So then, I hate to say it this way, the buck stops with us, the individuals.
Or if you're a congressman and you're just like, yeah, I'm going to defer to another department.
Whatever. Yeah.
They'll figure it out. Like, why is the Supreme Court making decisions on laws and then you complain about it, instead of you just making the law?
Well, instead of that's a very good point, because the Supreme Court has been overused in the last, I want to say, 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And at any point, the legislative branch could convene and either ratify or change the laws as they're written to be more clear.
Yeah.
But instead, once again, what they want to do is obfuscate and say, hey, the Supreme Court will handle it. And then they're going to have to take very, intricate arguments on very nuanced language and have to interpret it. And then what'll happen is, because it's a more conservative Supreme Court, what'll happen if a president, because a president can come in and stack a court with more liberals or what have you, maybe if it's conservative. I'm genuinely trying to take a step back. I'm not saying left or right, red or blue.
Right.
What I'm saying is, what kind of government do you want? Because I don't want the kind of government that is powerful because the populace allows it to be. I want a government with checks and balances so that when someone that I don't agree with is in office, they don't become my monarch.
Right.
And if someone that I do agree with is in office, they don't become a dictator.
Right.
Because
I agree,
because the populace is easy to be lied to. If democracies work, the Greeks would still run.
Yes.
Rome would still actually.
be
Rome was a republic, so that's actually a bad example because
the Greeks,
we're much more like Rome than I want to admit. But I guess what I'm trying to say is democracy does not work in isolation. A republic has seemed to be the best form of self-governance, mixed with the capital expansing nature of a mixed economy, capitalism, and a little bit of socialism. Find that pie chart, whatever you want.
Public works, minimal government oversight for sure. Yeah.
The main employer of Americans should not be the U.S. government. I'm sorry.
Agreed.
Nick, I had an idea of what this conversation would consist of beforehand. I did not know that we would go down some of the paths that we did.
That's awesome.
I want you to know that I genuinely enjoyed this.
Yeah, it was awesome. I had a great time.
I want to end this with actually a quote I got from Jordan Dowdy, and then I want to end with this last piece of discussion, if you don't mind. So before you came on today, I called Jordan. I go, hey, you know Nick a lot better than I do. What are some things that you think I should say or ask or whatever? And Jordan said, ask Nick about the difference between competition jujitsu and regular jujitsu, or the theories behind them, because he was telling me that when he came into Revive the very first time, you subbed him like 5 times and you were like bullying him. And he didn't say it like bullying him in the sense of like negative, like, oh man, he just came in there and like ragdoll, like, like physically bullied him, you know? And then Jordan was like, I just knew that after that role, I was like, this is where I got to go and this is who I got to learn under. And your styles were very similar, you know what I mean? And he really enjoyed that first interaction, and he enjoys the philosophy of your style of jujitsu rather than some others. So my last question for you, and I'm sorry that we kind of jumped around on topics, but what is the difference between competition jujitsu and jujitsu? Why is there this added adjective there?
So competition jujitsu, you gotta go to the title. It's about winning the competition. Jiu-jitsu tournaments aren't about who's the best at jiu-jitsu, who's the most technical, who has studied all these different moves and could be the greatest instructor, and then like the art of jiu-jitsu, I'm the best. It's about finding out who can win. That's what competition is, right? I'm sure with MMA, you've seen some MMA guys who are like, damn, he should probably not win, and he goes and crushes.
I've beaten a lot of people that were better than me.
Me too. That's how I think about it. And so in competition, it doesn't matter if you win by a ref's decision or a sub. A win is a win. And in a tournament, especially a jiu-jitsu tournament, now super fights are a little different, but jiu-jitsu tournament, I think the most matches I've had at black belt was 7 in one day.
Jesus,
7 matches.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot for a black belt. I mean, those are tough dudes.
It's a lot for anybody.
So 7 in one day, and that's with my weight class and the open weight class. And you have to understand how to win the match, have enough energy for the next match and the next one and the next one. So yeah, can I go out there and ragdoll the guy in the first round? Yeah, for sure. But why should I? Why don't I just go out there, get my points, get the warm-up round in, get the sweat kind of flowing, maybe win by an advantage, maybe win by 2, whatever, save myself for the later rounds. Because in the finals is where the true test is, right? That's when you have to kind of go hard, and it might be a very close match. So competition jiu-jitsu is you take all your knowledge, you narrow it down to a couple movements that you're really freaking good at, and you apply them perfectly. And once you apply it and you score your points, now it's watching the clock. Now it's understanding the rule set, understanding when I'm going to get a stalling call against me, when I'm not going to get a stalling call against me. Like we talked about earlier, I went against a guy in the final or semifinals of Chicago. He's super tough, and I went against him before he beat me. I beat him this last time. I knew he had a great takedown game. I played the edge of the mat, so every time he tried to take me down, we'd end up out of bounds. No points for him. We stand back up.
And he didn't react accordingly.
No, yeah, and he was getting tired because I outweighed him because it was absolute division. I outweighed him by 40 pounds. So he's pushing me around for 5 minutes. He's going to get real tired, and I beat him, right? And so competition jiu-jitsu is not a measurement of who is the best at jiu-jitsu. It's the measurement of who knows how to win. Jiu-jitsu, like you got your, you want to teach jiu-jitsu or whatever, that's when you have to know the art. You have to know how to make the fine tweaks of like, hey, grab here instead of here, and here's why. You're going to have better pressure doing this than this. That's jiu-jitsu. You got to know everything. Especially if you want to be a coach, you got to know everything. You got to know how to teach it and apply it and be able to verbalize my thought process on how this move works and get you to execute it and get you better at it. That's jiu-jitsu. And that's the lineage and all the other stuff that comes with it. Competition jiu-jitsu is strictly about winning, and I don't care how you do it as long as you win. That's kind of my mindset on it.
Do you think they're mutually exclusive? Do you think there's a Venn diagram between like what you say is like, jiu-jitsu and then competition jiu-jitsu? Like are they completely separate things?
No.
Or do they overlap? And if they overlap, like what's the percentage on it? Is it like 10%, 90%? Like what would you say about that?
Competition jiu-jitsu is a subset of jiu-jitsu. That's my thought process, right?
It's a pie within a pie.
Yeah. And so it's like a little sliver of the pie. And it might only be 10%. Because if you think about all the people who practice jiu-jitsu, hobbyists to athletes, I'll say about 90% of the people don't compete in tournaments ever.
Yeah.
They're there to have fun, lose some weight, be a part of a community, whatever it might be.
Benefit from all the things that jiu-jitsu can offer
Yes.
you.
And then there's a small little sliver of people who want to compete.
Competitive.
And then there's the even smaller percentage of people who win at competitions. Like there's a lot of people who go to comps and don't win at all, right? Or might never see a medal. So, yeah, to your point, competition jiu-jitsu is within jiu-jitsu. And then if you break the jiu-jitsu down even more, there's like, oh, the self-defense jiu-jitsu is more applicable on the streets. I'm like, bro, are you telling me a guy who's a world champion at IBJJF doesn't know how to beat up a dude in the streets? Get the hell
That's
out of here.
a very good criticism.
That's so stupid. So stupid. That's the dumbest argument I've ever heard. Oh, you're going to get beat up if you do jiu-jitsu, sports jiu-jitsu. I'm like, bro, give me a normal person. I will ragdoll that human being and make him my little bitch.
I'll go a step further. I have often said this. I'll take the guy who's been training 3 or 4 months over the average. I think it would shock the average male in America who is untrained.
Yes.
So never done any wrestling, never done any jiu-jitsu, any boxing. Like if you've never done a combat sport, let's say you only played soccer, I think you would be absolutely shocked at how infantile you would be against a person, not even a black belt. Your one stripe white belt is going to hurt you.
Yes.
Is going to hurt you.
Yes.
So I think you'd be shocked.
Agreed. And I think that people that focus solely on self-defense, okay, cool. That is a part of our art or sport or whatever you want to say. If you want to emphasize on it, cool. But don't ever tell me that somebody who does sports jiu-jitsu is not going to be able to defend themselves.
Yeah.
That's so dumb. Like you're stupid.
I agree. I agree.
Stupid. So
I think there's certain things that help, like law enforcement. Like I always said, like you did a good job of enunciating it, but like it's within the realm of jiu-jitsu. So like you have law enforcement available techniques because they have to take into consideration their belt and stuff like that. But it's still jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
Then you have competition jiu-jitsu where there's like points and time and all that. But it's still jiu-jitsu. Then there's self-defense, which is like you're not a law enforcement officer and you're just out in the streets. Still jiu-jitsu.
Still jiu-jitsu. Yeah,
so I do agree with that.
Yeah, that's my. I think that's where Jordan was getting with it. Yeah, it's like that's my take on it.
I asked every other black belt this, and this is what we'll end with. What do you think about the growth of jiu-jitsu overall? In my opinion, it's becoming a lot like karate used to be. And do you believe that is a good or a bad thing for jiu-jitsu? Like, I'll give you two sides of that coin. It can either be super diluted, and perhaps you have like purple belts opening up a gym who haven't necessarily acquired that black belt level yet. Is that good or bad? Or you could also make the argument of saying like, well, it's a good thing because you're having all these black belts come up and then they now have a means of which to generate revenue for themselves through the craft that they've mastered, right? Because to be a black belt in something, obviously there's levels to black belt, but if someone's a black belt or something, I would say that they are of high level in that
Yeah,
craft.
they're an expert.
Yes.
Yeah. So lot to unpack there.
Forgive me.
It's a great question though. Great question. So I often worry about jiu-jitsu becoming the karate of the 2000s, right?
Yeah.
Karate was actually a very tough martial art before, and same with Taekwondo, before the Olympics and the 80s came around and made them into Hollywood shit. So they actually the full contact karate, they still do it. Super tough. Like, you're punching the shit out of people.
Combat karate. It's fucking amazing.
Awesome.
I love watching it.
Yeah, it's great. So I do worry about the art being diluted, and we do a really good job of like self-regulating within the community. So if somebody puts out some bullshit,
you guys call each other out.
like you're not.
I love that though.
Yeah, me too. I think it's important. Like we have to self-regulate. So I don't worry as much about that part, but there are still people putting out dumb shit or saying dumb things or, just doing stuff that like really doesn't make sense. And I'm a capitalist, and I believe, hey man, like if you want to open up a business, great. But also when you open up a business as a purple belt, you better be a really freaking good purple belt, or wait your time until you're a black belt, right? Because you're already putting yourself in a disadvantaged position when you have a black belt on the street who has probably more years of teaching, could be a better instructor than you. I think if somebody opens up a gym as a purple belt, you better hire a black belt instructor.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, great.
Smart.
Open your gym.
Because you could have the business acumen.
Yes, you can be a great businessman, but we're talking about legitimacy here and other things that come into play when a common person off the street comes in and says, "Hey, you're a purple belt, but the guy down the street's a black belt. Why wouldn't I want to learn from that guy?"
And your prices are comparable.
Yeah, and you're like, "Well, I'm this and that." I'm like, bro, but you're a purple belt. He's been doing it 20 years. You've been doing it 4. Like, I'm pretty sure he probably knows more than you.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're putting yourself in a disadvantaged position. So So hire, if you're going to open up a business, great. I love being a businessman, entrepreneurial, awesome. Hire yourself a black belt, put them on payroll, have them sign a non-compete, right? 5 mile radius from your gym, whatever, cool. Have them teach your classes, right? You still got a lot to learn. You're a purple belt. I'm sorry, just saying it. But I do worry about it being diluted. I do worry about there's a particular organization that says jiu-jitsu is for everybody. No, it's not. Sorry, jiu-jitsu is not for everybody. This is for people who want to know how to fight, right? It's good to like get your practice in and want to lose weight and all that stuff. But at some point, you're gonna have to try to be tough. And if you're weak at the art, you're kind of making our art weak. And I don't want to be associated with the taekwondos where I'm kicking air and all of a sudden I'm a black belt and I'm tough.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
what the fuck is that? No, sorry. I want to be around tough people, and I want them to make me tougher, right? That's what I think of jiu-jitsu as. And so I don't think jiu-jitsu is for everybody. I think it takes a certain mindset and a certain person to stick with this from the rank of white belt to black belt and beyond. And if you don't have that mindset, cool. I don't really necessarily want you at my gym. There might be another place, where you can go, but you got to understand it takes hard work and dedication, and you're going to have a lot of lows, and you're going to get your ass kicked a lot, and you better be okay with it to get your ass kicked for years. I still get my ass kicked at black belt by some of my black belts. They beat the snot out of me, and I have to have that mindset of like, okay, I'm learning, I'm getting better. Like, this is a part of the art. And so I think we as a jiu-jitsu community, businessmen, the business side, we want more clientele, right? That's always a good thing, more money, right? So on the business side,
the bigger the pie chart, the better.
yes, exactly. I want more money that way, but like I also don't want to be the one responsible for saying jiu-jitsu is for everybody and then passing off bullshit belts. Like, everybody come in and try it, but there's gates that you have to get into. Like, there are gates that you have to pass, and if you don't pass it, I don't want you.
Yeah.
Go to another gym, right? And so I might be, an isolationist on that aspect, but I think it's good for the art.
Well, when you say jiu-jitsu isn't for everybody, I had this conversation with Vagi, and the first question I would ask is, what is for, like, is there anything on this planet that is for everybody?
Correct.
I would argue no. And then with Harigo, we came to the conclusion that like anybody can do jiu-jitsu. Like, nothing's stopping you from getting into a gym, possibly learning all that, but jiu-jitsu is not for everybody.
Yes.
So it's like, to your point, like, yes, you could have one leg and still be good at jiu-jitsu, or you could be a able-bodied individual who's
And suck.
Maybe
Yep.
this isn't for you. Like,
Yep.
it's not necessarily like a physical thing or a mental thing. It could be a combination of these variables. But I would agree that just like anything else in life, there's not one thing that has ever existed that is for everybody.
Correct. Besides air.
Yeah,
And
and
water.
then I would also say that if we as martial artists are not careful with that self-regulation of the community kind of regulating one. That's why I said I love it, because I love it when people call out bullshit or bullshito, right? It's happened before with other martial arts, and I think grappling martial arts more than the striking ones, personally, forgive me, to boxers and kickboxers, but grappling martial arts, the proof has always been in the pudding and is more of a meritocracy, because even in boxing, you can get that lucky punch. We always say in fighting
Yes.
that like everybody's dangerous for the first minute or the first round,
Yes.
right? But in grappling, you're not catching a black belt. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
if you're a white belt, you're not gonna like throw this arm bar and catch the black belt. Grappling is more of a meritocracy. In wrestling, you're not pinning the NCAA All-American
Not
on
happening.
accident.
Yeah.
The way you could accidentally clip somebody in a fight. You know what I
Yes.
mean? I will say that we do a better job in the grappling community of kind of holding ourselves accountable as a community, and more than anything, proving it on the mat.
Agreed. I love that you said that. Everybody's there's a puncher's chance. Have you ever heard there's a grappler's chance?
No.
No, never. Because I had a discussion with a friend of mine who was I was in school with back in the day, who was a Taekwondo black belt, and they were saying like, oh yeah, I can get out. I'm like, I'm telling you right now, I'm a black belt. I guarantee you, guaranteed, I will put you on your back and you will never get out ever, ever.
I have a threat that I say to people. It's kind of vulgar. What I told Adam, because Adam was like, I have a guy who works for me. And Adam was like, I don't think, I was like, I go, Adam, the only thing preventing me from putting my dick in your mouth is that I don't feel like it.
Exactly. Not
Is
today.
that I don't feel
Not
like
today,
it.
buddy.
Could you stop me? No.
No, not at all.
No, you can't.
Like-
and that's the difference between you and I,
Yes.
Adam. The only thing preventing me from violating you physically is that I just don't feel like it.
100%.
And if you as a man do not hear that and immediately think, I need to change that, you and I are not the same.
They just see red, bro. That's all they see.
So I'm sorry, Adam, and anybody else I've said
Hey,
that
you
to,
better
because
start
he was not the
training.
only guy.
You better start training.
Oh,
That's
that's
right.
that's the wrestling code. If one man can hold you down, two can fuck you.
Yeah, two could rape you.
Nick, I really appreciate you coming in, man.
Yeah,
I know that
man.
we tried to set this up for a while now, but you're a busy guy, and then I was off with a vacation with my family, so I wanted to say thank you for giving me the very limited time that you have.
Yeah, I
I
appreciate
really
it,
do
man.
appreciate it. I hope this was, if at the very least, something like what you expected.
Yeah, it was
or
awesome.
that you enjoyed
I
yourself.
had a blast. This was like
Good.
one of the better podcasts I've ever been on.
Beautiful, man.
I
I'd
can't
love
say it's better than Josh McKinney's because he's my
No, no,
boy,
hey, no,
but,
no.
but it's a great podcast. Great questions.
You know what I love about Josh too is in martial arts, I felt like there was always scarcity because we were always vying for the same thing. The one thing I do like about this type of medium is with Zach and Pat and with Josh and with other people, I've only ever felt like abundance and camaraderie. Like Josh helped me out
Yeah.
and Zach helped me out. It's very much the case of like, hey, let's see how we can all benefit
Yes.
one another. And that is one thing I do genuinely love about this. It's
Yeah, it's
not like
great.
one or the other. I think the world of all the other people that do this as well. I'm doing my thing, they're doing their thing. But I do thank you for saying that because this is, like I said earlier, something that it's a passion project.
Yeah, it's awesome. This is a great setup. Love it. I had a great time. It was awesome.
I would love to have you on again, and then we could maybe dig into some other topics that we didn't get to because there was a bunch of other things I wanted to talk about as well. But we're coming up on 2.5 hours.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So time flies and you're having fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brother.
I appreciate it.
I
Thank
appreciate
you so
you.
much. Yeah, thank you.